Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C, Certified Brewhead.
And I am Nathan from NathanDoesBeer.
And welcome to episode 171 of Beer and Others, the podcast Adjunct series. Nathaniel, this evening, we're heading back to Quebec. We were just saying off air, it's been a bit of a goal of ours this year to put more of a focus on talking with Quebec breweries. And it's just something that, we're just saying that now that, you're a couple hours away and you're there, obviously, a few times a year. And I go back like once a year so far, it seems. So it's, it's something that we just want to really make sure we continue to shine the light on. It's an incredible scene out there. And this brewery, this would be like technically the fourth appearance on the pod, which is very cool. These guys really had one of the dopest openings and one of the coolest stories that I feel like we bring it up a bunch on how these guys introduced the brewery once I actually got a physical space. I thought it was just so dope, and it was I think like a testament to what they're building and to the way they've approached the products since then. Have become like a real institution in the city. So I'm excited to.
Sure. And like they're one that has that when they came onto the scene had a bit of a different feel from any of the other breweries in the city.
Absolutely. So it very much contributed to that sort of tapestry of beer in Quebec. So I'm ready to get this going. So let's bring the fellas in. Let me unmute because I always mess that up. Guys, please welcome Mike and Keegan of Origin in the building. Oh, shit. I got to press the applause. There we go. Oh, it's quiet. Let me turn it up. I got it.
Hey, there we go.
Welcome, fellas. How you doing?
Yo, good, man. How are you guys doing?
Glorious now.
Great to be here with you. Yeah,
man. Great to see both your faces. It has been a hot minute, so it's very cool to kind of like use this as really just an excuse to catch up, which is awesome, which is always going to be fun. So very cool to have you guys on. We've got a lot of stuff we want to talk about, particularly Keegan and I were chatting maybe a couple months back after some of the pods we did with Troy from Badlands. We were talking about all the tax stuff and all the issues that's happening here. And Keegan, you were passionate about the stuff that's going down in Quebec that we don't really know a lot about, and we haven't had the Quebec perspective. So you're essentially the face of Quebec craft beer on BAOS right now, my man.
Lots of pressure.
Tons of pressure. It's okay. Mike's got you. So, boys, we're getting started with a new beer. Is this a new beer, or is it new to me?
It's relatively new. Like, it didn't just come out, but it's a couple of months now.
Couple months. Okay. Yeah. Fantastic.
We're tweaking it all the time, yeah.
Love it. Beautiful can here. The Origine Lager, I imagine based on the ABV, which is 4.2, it's like a sort of a light lager, American light lager style would be. Is that fair? Yeah? Amazing.
Quebec light lager.
Quebec light lager. I like that. Is that how you position it?
Yeah, it's
so we actually we use Quebec malts.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Hops
so
too?
it's from we were using Cola La Flamme malts. They unfortunately just burnt down like a couple of weeks ago.
Shit.
Not 3 weeks ago.
Damn.
So we had to switch it up while we wait for them to get back online.
Oh no.
But we still use Quebec malts. Right now it's Eno malt. We switched it up.
Okay. And the hops and yeast, is it all Quebec too, or mostly the malt?
The hops are not from Quebec; they're Canadian.
Okay.
It's Cluster.
Cluster. Okay.
Yeah. And the yeast is a German yeast.
German yeast. Okay. From Germany or a German style yeast?
German style yeast.
German style yeast. Who do you guys use for that? Is it local or is it? I'm always curious now.
We import through. I forget the name of who we use to import this yeast. It's kind of like an unknown company in Canada, but
okay.
I could look it up really quick.
Oh, it's fine. I mean, I'm always just curious now because we had a yeast company on the pod recently, and from the Labo, so I never really thought that much about it. I always feel like yeast gets fronted on pretty heavy, so now I'm like, I want to know more about yeast. God damn it.
We use a lot of the Labo like more recently.
Nice.
They make really good stuff. Yeah, we're actually making a Quebec lager coming up for like Saint Jean Baptiste. We're using 100% Quebec ingredients, so the labo is in there. Yeah.
Hell yeah, love to see it, gentlemen. First and foremost, great to see your faces. And
cheers, boys.
Get that in you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Wicked nose. Money. Nice. Light, kind of malty. Obviously the bready, sorry. A hint of like the kind of grassy bitterness in there, but super crushable. Like it's not like it's exactly like a Quebec lager you would expect. Yeah.
Such a sweetness there too.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, nice.
The goal with this one was to be as drinkable as possible.
Okay.
Like we try to make a lot of drinkable beers, but this one is very light and drinkable. It goes down like super quick.
Yeah.
It was kind of I guess our answer to what like the Pabst maybe, but with the quality aspect there. Like not to say that Pabst is not making quality, but we're not using any sugars and stuff to accentuate the flavors and anything like that. So it's all coming from the malts. So yeah, and we put the Enfant des Neiges, the snowy owl, on top of the logo too, which is the national animal of Quebec. Yeah.
Oh no shit.
Yeah,
it's a good looking label.
Yeah, it's very attractive. I like it a lot. Was it? I mean, I guess because that's what made me think it was an American light lager, being that was like instead of an eagle, it's an owl.
Yeah,
that's
the inspiration for sure.
Yeah, it's very clever. This got a bit of corn in it, like flaked corn, to give it that kind of.
Yeah. From Quebec corn. So.
Only way it's going to be. Yeah, man, this is exactly what you would expect. Like crushable, refreshing. How's this moving in the tap room? Has this become like a bit of a? Oh, is it? I guess a core or anything like that.
It is a core SKU technically. We're kind of brewing it, letting it run out, and brewing it again because we're continuously tweaking this beer. It's changed. We've brewed it 5 times. It's changed 5 times. Not like drastically, but we're making
enough
little adjustments. And we want to like really get this as perfect as possible. Mm-hmm. It's a top seller in the tap room, and it's sometimes the number 1 seller at our restaurant in Dorval.
Okay.
There's a lot of construction workers around there, and they come at lunch, and it seems to be the preferred choice.
The lunchtime beer.
So lunch, yeah, it's like you'll have a pint, and it's not gonna affect you as much as having an IPA or anything like that.
Absolutely.
It's not going to have you nodding off in the afternoon like some might.
Yes. Yeah, last time we went for construction workers. I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, I was thinking about this the other day. We haven't talked about the Origin Brasse yet, the new place. So that's something we need to definitely touch on tonight, because I think last time it was either an idea or it was in the process. I don't recall. It was last time was November 2020, so pre link up pod. When did we signed
the lease October 2022. October 2020 we signed the lease.
So you probably didn't even say anything on that pod. You might have told us off air, but probably didn't talk about it publicly.
Yeah, I don't think we talked about it publicly. No.
Sick. Okay, so yeah, I feel like I spoke to you both sort of separately about it and hearing about it and stuff, but hadn't actually talked about it here. So that's fine. We definitely need to talk about that. Okay, this is amazing. This is available now. This one people can get, basically, like you said, most of the time.
Yeah, and what's a bit different is we usually have bigger cans, but this one's obviously a smaller guy. And the intention was it's actually available in stores in 12 packs.
Smart.
So which is uncommon for a craft brewery to do, because it's extremely expensive to do this, and
probably annoying too.
Very annoying.
It's another box packaging and shit.
Yeah. But it's a different. We're learning a lot from this process. We're not making the money we probably should be we need to make, but it's not the reason why we started doing it.
Right.
We're kind of getting into different markets, different segments of customers too that are not typically always drinking craft beer. And it's our goal when we first started was to always, because the landscape was very different. I mean, 8 years ago when we started to conceptualize this idea, we wanted to bring craft beer to like as many people as we could. And this beer seems to be speaking to different people than we usually interact with at the tap room at our first location. So
right,
it's really cool in that aspect.
That is that's awesome. I love to hear that. So then, where should we start tonight? Now, should we? You know what? Maybe because Mike, this is your second time on the pod, but you have like the time that you were on the pod was for Link Up, so we didn't really talk about like you and your sort of like beer journey at all. So I think it might be great to normally what we do, because if people want to hear the full origin story, like, you know, go back, listen to the other two pods. We talked about it kind of at length. So it'd be kind of cool, Mike, maybe to start off, let's get your story, sort of how you got into beer and, you know, how we all connected. And then, you know, because we obviously we all knew each other in the beer kind of content creator scene, and how you came to be at Cat Origin. And then we can, I wouldn't mind talking about the Origin Brasse kind of off the rip, because I want to know a lot more how that's been going. Go for it, brother.
Sure.
But it's kind of corny, but funny enough, my story starts with Four Origins, because I was living in Pointe-Saint-Charles at the time when they opened 6 years ago, and I was just getting into beer at the time. Coming from the UK, I drank a lot of cider. I didn't drink a lot of like craft beer or anything like that. But I was starting to explore, and so I went to this new tap room in the area, and it was that pretty much started. Like I started visiting all these breweries, doing all that, and getting into beer to the point where I started writing the blog Beer Brit Montreal, which is how I met you, Craig, and you, Nate. And funnily enough, that's also how I got into working with Four Origins, because I was doing that for a good, it must have been like 3 years, and Four Origins were my neighborhood brewery, so I was always stopping down, getting the new beers, taking photos of the new beers, writing about them. So I was chatting with Keegan and Mike, met them at festivals, all this. And then a few years ago, I just finished my degree, and I was looking for, which I come over to Canada to study, and I was looking for a job with a kid on the way. And simultaneously, both Keegan and other Mike both said, "Oh, we might have a job for you," in two different conversations. It was kind of the perfect fit, because I'd already been repping Four Origins, like they were my friendly neighborhood brewery. That's what I always called them. And
nice.
Then I kind of just turned it into what I did on a day-to-day basis. And I'm now writing stuff for the social media, doing the marketing, and a lot of just representing the brand online, in person, at events.
That's dope, man. How long you been there now? A couple years?
It's 2.5 years.
2.5.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
It's 2.5 years. Look.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of. I remember you telling me when you got the job.
Because it was just after, it was like my kid was born, and then I started working. So.
That's awesome, dude. I remember you telling me when you got the job. I remember meeting you for the first time at I think it was that event at Crew Collective.
Yeah.
For what was that brand? Like Set Moulin or something?
I was thinking about it. It was Emily that she organized it, right?
She organized the thing, and it was that Moulin was in the name of the brewery for the beers.
It's Gose Down from. They just set up a new brewery out in Varennes, I think. No?
Okay.
And they were. I remember. This thing there, and that was when I met you for the first time, and a few others.
There's a few other people there that we hadn't met in person and stuff. It was probably that would have been pre-COVID though. I was about to say probably like
2019, I think.
19 sounds about right. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Like it sounds like from what I've seen online, every time we spoke, like it seemed like a really perfect fit for you there. So it's great to hear that it's going awesome and repping the brand heavy. So that's a beautiful thing. Now, are you guys both based in Montreal, or you're based in the new spot, which is Dorval, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're both now based out in the West. I moved out to the West Island 2 years ago now.
Okay.
So we're both of us are based out in the West Island, but I was living in the Sud-Ouest for the other 8 years I've been here. So kind of, and even you too. So we've kind of lived in and breathed the two spots that we're in. It's kind of between the two places a lot now.
Gotcha, that's convenient. So then, is the main like did you move all of the sort of operations, like offices, to Dorval?
Yeah, all so our main recipes that we do quite a bit of volume on are on Dorval.
Okay.
We bought our own canning line
Hell yeah.
in 2021, which was an amazing decision. During COVID, we had a lot of issues with our third-party canning companies. Like there was too many breweries that wanted to can at the same time, so we were there was a huge bottleneck there, and we asked ourselves the question, wouldn't it be funny if they weren't, like, their machines broke down and they went bankrupt and couldn't service us? Like, what do we do? And we're like that could happen. So we needed to get our own canning line. And we asked the same question about our distributor, and oddly enough, they did go bankrupt, and it caused a huge shit show. So we weren't quick enough on that one. Yeah, well, you heard about the Transbroue mess.
Is that not yours? Is that your one? That's you guys?
Yeah, that's our one. Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, we're caught in that shitstorm.
Should we? Is that like too touchy to talk about? I'm not sure what the. No.
Let's talk about it for sure. I need therapy.
Fuck, bro. We got all the time in the world. Maybe we should. Yeah, let's talk about that maybe now, and then we can keep coming back to the thing, because I'm actually fascinated to hear what happened. It sounds horrible. I know that BG in Quebec City got fucked.
Oh yeah, he got.
Like Max was saying, they got screwed, and I was reading it, but most of the stuff was in French that I found, and I was getting people. I think Mike, you actually gave me a summary on Instagram. We were chatting and that, but I haven't really. No one's like given me the story, so I'd love if you run us through that, because that kind of ties into the other stuff we want to talk about with all the distro stuff, and this is the distro stuff plus the taxing and all that taxation stuff and everything. So
yeah, like the so Transbroue started off as a great business. I really like the guys behind it. The people that were running it were phenomenal back when we were 6-7 years ago. It was the same people up until Triani bought it, which was, I believe, in June 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we didn't find out until November 2022. The deal closed, I think, in June, and then they were doing a transition, and then they made it public.
Okay.
Transbroue was always had a great philosophy. They wanted to bring craft beer. They wanted to make craft beer accessible to people. So they wanted to put down as many barriers as they could, or remove as many barriers as they could, so people could purchase craft beer. And they did a really great job at it, and they did a great job at protecting the breweries that were working with them. Their pricing structure wasn't crazy. It was good. It helped breweries keep costs under control and hopefully pass it back to the customer. And the sales rep structures were a lot of people that were very passionate about beer. So it was a lot of fun to work there, or to work with them.
Right.
Then about maybe during COVID, we started to see the problems kind of come about, where it was disorganized. There was a lot of issues with transport, but most distributors you work with, they have the same issues. So we didn't make too much of a fuss. And then all of a sudden they stopped paying us on time. So 2022, I think, was the biggest. The trouble really started to come about. They really stopped paying us within the amount of time, and we would give them, we're okay, we understand you're having trouble. They would talk to us, and they're give us more time. We're okay, and we need to purchase our ingredients several months before we brew beer, and then hopefully we get paid within 30 days, which doesn't exist anymore. Now it's 45, and most of the time it's 60 days. So they were surpassing the 60 days quite often and hitting the 90 days. And then they sold to this company, the Triani is a wine bottling. I think they started off bottling wine they would import like bulk wine from Italy and bottle it in their facilities. That's how they started.
Okay.
So they didn't really know beer that much. But, we heard a lot of weird things about them. They, if you read up a bit on them, you could see that they were being taken to court many, many times for various reasons. They had about, I think, 20 lawsuits at that time, even when they purchased like the Glutenberg Group, which is like the mother company that owned Transbroue. So to make a long story short, he decided to just stop paying the breweries completely.
Okay. Why?
Out of the he said it was like cash flow reasons, but
who's he? The new owner?
Yeah, the new owner, Tristan.
Okay.
Tristan and Joanie. So Triani is Tristan and Joanie's name put together.
Gotcha. Oh, I saw. So that's the couple that's in the paper, all the articles and stuff.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And I remember, quick aside, there was this dude who used to come by and drop off PR stuff to me for Brasserie Le Deux Frères, and I think they might have owned, because he also dropped off like non-alcoholic gin for Tiff, and he wore like a bomber jacket that said Triani, and I'd never seen that word before. That was the only reason I knew, and he never mentioned. So I thought that maybe they owned them or something. Was there like...
So Triani at some point bought the Solar Group. Solar was another bottler that went bankrupt. So Solar was part of the energy drink scandal that happened 5 years ago, where they make this drink called Fuck Up, and it's like upside down, and it's 7.5% alcohol, but it's like extremely juicy, like you don't taste the alcohol whatsoever, like, and it's really marketed to younger people.
Yeah,
and it was sold in like convenience stores. Yeah. So it was a bit like nefarious. I don't know, like it didn't like sit well with anybody. So it got investigated, and a young girl ended up passing away because she drank a couple or several of these. It's kind of unclear. So they investigated this company, and they found a lot of wrongdoing. So the company declared bankruptcy, and then Triani bought this company, which inside that company there was Les Deux Frères, there was Chamarri, there was some beer, there was a lot of energy drinks, so like Octane. They were doing Baron, like the spruce beer.
I've probably seen it. It sounds familiar.
Yeah, so they had like a bunch of stuff in there, and then this bigger company got bigger and then purchased Glutenberg with all their brands. So Glutenberg has Glutenberg, Oschlag, Vox Populi, and I think and they were brewing contracts for a couple of other breweries. I think Pixel is one of them, and then there was some others. But anyway, so they bought this thing, which in Transbroue was like a separate entity.
Oh, I thought it was part of it. Okay.
Yeah. No. Well, it was owned by Glutenberg, but still like maintained as a separate Inc. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
What happened is they just they bankrupted Transbroue because it had, all the breweries were suing Transbroue to get the money out. Like in the middle of the summer, they owed breweries like half of their revenue for the year. So some breweries, I think I could say, because Paul mentioned it publicly from Alchimiste, but he's in the seven figures.
Yeah, it was like 1.1 or something. I saw that.
Yeah, and they and I think it was higher than that in the summer. In the summer, they owed us like $500,000, and then half the breweries decided to leave Transbroue in June. Mm-hmm. At that point, in protest, and took them to court and tried to get money, and it really didn't work out for them. We decided to stay to try to recoup as much as we could, and he started to then pay us a little bit, I think, because he saw everybody was leaving. He's like, okay, the breweries that are staying are going to start to pay a little bit. Mm-hmm. So we got it down to about 200,000, but we still lost 200,000 in this, and that's like several years of profit for a small brewery like us. It's like extremely painful to go through, but we're still alive, which is a good thing, I guess. But like, what are you gonna do? People decide to screw you over, and there's just not much you could do about it except move forward. So yeah,
Jesus,
but
dude,
we're still in court with them, so there's still a chance that we do get something. But we're not. The chances are pretty slim. Like I put it at maybe 10 or 15% that we get something. Get something back. Yeah.
So Transbroue is no longer now. Like they closed it down.
Transbroue is closed down. It might get purchased by somebody else, but there's not much in there to purchase.
Yeah, I was gonna say like they've and the brand reputation's gone.
Yeah. It took them a year to completely just destroy it from like. It was like November, December, and then December 1st here. Like it was one straight year. And
that's crazy.
Burn it into the ground.
And it's really too bad because Transbroue was doing like I don't want to say a great job, but they were doing a pretty decent job at distributing products to grocery stores and depanneurs and craft beer stores. And, there's a lot of stuff they did wrong, but there was quite a bit of stuff they did right.
Okay. I mean, people kept going with it.
The staff was really good too. Like we always had great times with the staff. The new staff from Triani, I didn't get to meet any of them. Like that was one of the biggest things with Triani is that they communicated nothing to us. So we met Tristan like 2 times, and it was a bunch of promises, and like he would never follow through. He wouldn't even communicate with us when he said he would communicate. Like it was just really a really stressful period, and felt like he almost did it on purpose, but who knows?
Interesting. That's so crazy to me. Yeah. I mostly in my conversations with typically ones I sort of got a bit closer with, like became friends with, I usually only heard negative things about all distributors. They're like, yeah, these guys are fucking me over, so I've moved to this guy now. And the one thing I always heard about Transbroue were like, and I can't remember if this was a brewery that told me or actually someone that they were selling to, like a store or whatever. But they, you go into, we used to live on Côte St. Catherine, as you know, like near, my main store was the Provigo, the one on Montreal near Saint Laurent. And in that store, they had a whole Transbroue section. They had multiple shelves. There was like 360. You go around and it had all of their brands in one place. So it was quite convenient. But
except
what? Except
we never had that for some reason.
Really? Yeah. So okay, what I'm about to say next.
Things like that, like for no reason.
So this is what I heard, and that might explain it. To be honest, someone told me that if you think about it, you've got a no, it was I remember. I don't want to put him on blast. It was a dude. I know the guy, I'll tell you off air, and I can't remember who he worked for. He might have even worked for Transbroue, and he left and told me how it works. But basically, they have the sales sheet, right? They're employed by Transbroue, who also own Oshlag. So you're going to the beer buyer at a Provigo or Loblaws or whatever, who don't know much about craft beer, and they see this fucking... I've seen the PDFs. They're like 10 pages of small text, all separated, and they're just like, I don't know what this means, bro. So then you're like, you know what, let me make it easy. See these ones that say Oshlag? You should just get all of them. Use the Vox Populi? You should just get that. And that's what apparently they were doing. So they weren't buying, they were getting, I don't know if they were getting compensated more by their employer. They were to sell more of their own products. So they weren't going, hey, Catherine Gin is dope, they're from around the corner, they do this, it's perfect for this market. Like, they weren't doing that, because how can you when you've got 600 products or whatever it is? Yeah, like maybe not 6, but like 200 or 300, absolutely. Like, so that's what I heard.
And they for sure had incentives to sell their brands. I mean, there was not a lot of reps for the amount of product that there was that they were selling. It was, so, I mean, like Gutenberg, Oshlag had to make their numbers, and the reps had to push those products to make their numbers, to make their bonuses, and that's how they were getting paid.
And how would those reps even know all 300 of those beers. Like, they wouldn't be able to speak to the vast majority of them. They probably wouldn't have even heard of most of the breweries, and they got to go in there and sell it and represent your brand.
Yeah.
To these,
so they don't. I mean, Mike, like, you were on the road a lot, so I don't know.
I was going to say, it speaks volumes to how effective it was that Four Origins brought me on a few years in to go out there and represent after
they weren't doing
time, not only kind of staking our little space in the fridge, but from amongst all the hundreds of breweries there are, but also protecting it from the brands that were distributed by a distributor. Like, if we fell out of stock sometimes, there would suddenly be a kind of one of their brands in our space.
Yeah, so you have to, like, the sales reps are paid to fill the shelves, right? So it doesn't matter to the rep, it doesn't matter what goes on the shelf as long as the product is available and goes on. Like, a rep is not going to protect empty space for so long if your products are not available. And it's just like the way craft beer works. Like, we're all smaller breweries, we make a lot of variety. We're not pumping out the same beer all the time, so our beer is going to sell out if it's hot for a weekend. Like, our beer's gone, magically. So it's hard, and it takes like a month to 8 weeks to make certain beers, sometimes 10 weeks if you include like packaging and all that stuff. So if my forecasting has to be like, I have to be a mastermind to be able to predict 2 months in advance like what my stock levels are going to be. So the big guys are able to do it because they don't have like they do have quite a bit of SKUs, but they have way more technology than we do, and they've been doing it for much longer. So, kudos to them on that. But the reps just want to sell product, and they want to make sure the retailers are getting, most of the time, that they're getting the right product for their store. So,
gotcha.
Origins does really well in Montreal, and the reps, in the last year of Transbroue, they really didn't do a good job. But before that, it was, not so bad. And then, but with Mike on the road, it was even better because he was protecting our brand. He wasn't just selling product. He was like, okay, these products need to be rotated. This store should not have this product. They should have more of this stuff because it's selling better. So he was like making sure the reps were doing a proper job for Origins, or doing their job for them, because they were not, they didn't have enough time to the rep in Montreal had like 400 stores and like 600 like, there's not much, they can't do everything.
That's it.
So yeah, that's a big reason why we brought Mike on, is to make sure that like our product is fresh on the shelf as much as possible. That the reps are speaking about us in the right way, saying the right things when it comes to certain products and stuff like that. So, so yeah, and for the reps to, and they wouldn't go into the specialist stores, because the specialist stores wouldn't order big volumes. They start to really focus on grocery stores. Right. So Mike spent a lot of his times in the specialist stores, like reigniting that relationship, or just keeping them up to date on what we were doing, because the distributor wasn't really doing that anymore for us. So,
interesting. That kind of speaks volumes for how important it is to have your own team doing what you do, Mike, for that.
Oh, you 100% need that. Yeah.
And this is more, I'm thinking of this because, like, we've talked about this a little bit here on the pod, but, like, say, Quebec, the system with the specialist store where, convenience store, dépanneurs everywhere. I still haven't got out of the habit of calling them deps because people don't know what the fuck you're talking about here, so I have to say, I always correct myself. But all the deps out there, there's regular ones who just have some stuff, and then the specialty ones. But here, they're the quick version is there's a thing called the Master Framework Agreement with the beer store. It ends at the end of next year, and once that ends, they're going to bring in convenience stores. I don't even know if it'll be 2026. Yeah, so now that's going to open up Ontario breweries to an uncharted territory, because they don't really, the only sales reps they would have would be licensees for the most part, they only brought in like allowing cafes and restaurants and whatever to be able to sell cans and bottles to go during COVID, which has been sick because now I go to a cafe close to me and get all my stuff there. But then that guy happens to love beer, so he drives to Badlands and Third Moon every week because they don't just distribute. So he has to drive there and do like a 3-hour, whatever it is, round trip to go and get it. So
mind you, there is still a similar relationship with, like with sales reps to the LCBOs. Think
That's
of
a good point.
The kind of stuff that Mandy Murphy was talking about with how they used to really need to manage certain stores of how much stuff are they purchasing, how long is it sitting, is it sitting on shelves, is it refrigerated, all of that stuff. That sounds like the similar kind of work that Mike's doing.
That's a great point. So either way, this is cool thank you for bringing that up, Nate. I totally forgot. So I feel like most breweries don't have a crazy sales force, and I guess with that, not all of them are in the LCBO here. So the breweries are going to have these new opportunity for distribution that essentially didn't exist prior because it was LCBO and that's fucking it. Then Beer Store kind of came in, but they made it a little bit tough, and I don't know how much craft is moving through there. And a lot of them don't have a store. Like you walk in and then you got to go off a list and you go, hey, give me a case of Bud, and then they'll go out the back and bring it out. It's not on the floor. Then you got the indie bottle shops that really kind of cater to maybe the real beer nerdy type of stuff. It's not just every brand's there. And then, but the convenience stores are probably going to, and all grocery. I think there was a pilot program of 450 grocery stores across the province, and now it's going to be all. So kind of long story short is that what you guys just talked about is going to be useful for breweries in Ontario to be who are going to have this opportunity and probably going to be well, there's going to be a whole bunch of distribution companies popping up here with presenting themselves and say, hey, we'll do it for you. Or you could hire a mic and then you have your shit taken care of properly by someone who understands the brand inside out, who loves the brand and defends the brand, as you were saying, Keegan. So it's this is fascinating, and I didn't even really think about all of this in the context of how important it is to have a mic. I like that. Have a mic working for you.
Hire a mic. Yeah.
Hire a mic. And that is episode name.
It's so important we have two at the
Not
brewery.
every day someone with a PhD likes loves beer and loves what you're doing and wants to, come on board. It's pretty awesome. We're very lucky.
It's amazing. So thank you for breaking that down. Fuck them, I guess. And I really hope you get every penny of that shit back, because I don't like unscrupulous business practices. It's sickening in this economy, in an industry like craft beer. That shit is so whack. I really, really hope you get that shit.
Really, it's amazing and probably not expected that you guys wound up still having your business after the fact, because you don't hear many stories of of businesses needing to take a $200,000 L on that and still be standing on the other side of it.
Yeah, we're extremely fortunate. We have a great tap room that works very well, and a really great restaurant and tap room that works super well in the West Island. So, and our partners that we have invested in the business are very supportive, and basically said fuck them too, and let's keep going. So
beautiful.
We're super fortunate to have that.
That's awesome. I love that. To turn around, we're going to move towards positivity now until we talk about taxes. Next beer, boys. What are we doing?
Yeah, next beer.
I think if we want some good news, I think the move is some Bontanik. We did have some good stuff happen last year.
Oh yes.
Our little flagship beer, Bontanik, won Best White in Canada 2023.
No
At
shit.
the Canadian Brewing Awards. So 2023 wasn't all lost for us.
Wasn't all. That's awesome.
We had some good news.
Hell yes. So
I gotta go get mine.
Yes, go grab it, brother. We'll just do a quick
I can
intro.
talk about it while you're
While you go fetch. So this beer first came out before I left. I know it's definitely been around a little bit,
I
right?
believe it's 2019. It was it wasn't an original launch beer, but it came pretty soon thereafter once the brewery was established.
And is it the same? I've obviously had it before. I'm just trying to see, but I guess I had it in 2019 as well, so that would make sense. This is the same, like the recipes. It's the same one. It's not like a different.
I believe it's more or less the same. We make minor tweaks here and there all the time.
Of course.
Like we're constantly updating beers, and actually since in the last like 6 months or so, we've been really looking at the all of our recipes to make sure that they're at their absolute best. Love the glass, Nate. There we go.
Yeah.
Love it. Oh look. Oh, I think I have one upstairs too. God damn it.
This is even my pumpkin fest glass.
Yes. The pumpkin fest was so genius, and still Nightmare is like one of the best porters of all time.
Are you team pumpkin?
Fuck yeah, dude.
Pumpkin.
Oh yeah, this is what I was just saying. I'm rocking my pumpkin fest glass right now. Even
Got a rep. To be fair, the lactose thing has kind of died down a lot, but
We've got
pumpkin,
lactose coming up. Don't worry.
well, I definitely want to have some lactose, and it's more important coming from you, being that I don't want to say, oh, you know what, Mike D apostrophe is very anti-lactose, and I guess Mike D here is also relatively been anti-lactose. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I don't. I'm not. I think it's. I realized reviewing it over the years. I'm just anti-milkshake IPA.
Okay, so if it's used right, it's okay.
Yeah, if it's right, it works.
I think that's fair.
If it's used like completely egregiously, then it should not exist.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like I've been seeing it since I stopped caring about it. I feel like I've seen it in more and more products.
Everyone else stopped caring about it.
Well, I feel like I'm seeing it more often now, though. Everyone else did stop caring about it. Then I feel like it almost feels like now it's having a bit of a resurgence or something. I don't know.
But I think the people who had the problem with it was that it was going into styles where it didn't belong. Like now it fits in smoothies. It fits in stuff that's meant to be a bit sweeter.
That's a good point.
Taste change, but it like throwing it into an IPA that were inherently bitter to start with and making it taste like vanilla. Like I could see people losing their minds over 6 years ago.
They definitely, I get it. As time's gone on, I've got a little bit more traditional, maybe conservative with the Crispies are like my shit. So now, but I've had a bunch of Crispies with lactose in it, like, and they're like, there's some sort of like a dessert.
That's not okay.
That's not okay.
Wait,
it's not my favorite, but it's fine.
Crispy is a lager, right? We're talking like a blonde or.
Like typically, I guess you could probably put blonde under it. I think it means specifically lagered beers, so like lagers, pilsners, etc. So like I know like Rorschach here does a horchata lager, so it's like a lactose and some other spices and stuff, and it works in a way that it shouldn't at all. I wouldn't reach for that all the time, but strangely it works. And give me a regular Czech Pilsner or something. But anyway, we digress. Lactose we'll talk about later. We're talking about Bontanik right now, and this is using the fucking the herbs and spices from the Circa distillery around the corner from the St. Charles Brewery.
So it started out as a collaboration with Circa distilleries who are just down the canal, a bit further, a few kilometers away from the brewery. I believe, Keegan, you guys picked them out originally with the Circa team. Yeah, we actually there was just last night there was an event at Circa where the beer was being served out there, so the relationship is still going.
Beautiful.
We had a little collaboration.
We served their alcohol at the restaurant too. Their gin.
Hell yeah.
They make a whiskey.
Relationship. And it's the same ingredients that we've been. It's juniper berries, green cardamom, grains of paradise, orange peel, and there's one more that I always forget. It's on the can.
No, you got them.
Oh, yeah.
You got them.
Botanicals. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
You said juniper. Orange
juniper
peel.
Berries is the main one. That's the gin
Barley.
smell, really. If you.
Yeah.
And if we didn't say it already, and the base beer, with the botanicals aside is like a blanche. It's a white beer, right?
Specifically, it's a wit beer. So we
Belgian
wit.
wit.
That was the category we mainly won in. Was the Belgian white, that one that this won the award for.
Gotcha.
Because they are allowed to be lightly spiced according to style. Within the style limits, so this one still fits, even though it's a spiced beer. It still fits within because often white beers will be spiced with coriander or something like that. so you're allowed a little bit of variation within the judging. So they still fit within that category. And took
She
home the
came
gold.
through. Hells yeah. Well, with that, guys, cheers. Get that in you.
Cheers.
Yeah, it definitely just smells like gin in a glass.
So fresh.
Yeah, fresh, super refreshing. It
yeah.
feels like a summer. I'm not surprised it's year round. You obviously can drink everything year round, but this would be super wicked in the a park jam.
Yeah.
Nice little bit of bitterness in there. Like it's kind of like an elevated wit beer, I guess, with the gin botanicals. It kind of like a little punchier. That bitterness isn't really there from memory in Blanches. I don't have a lot of them, but I don't think they're really bitter, are they? They're usually
You
sweet.
see, you get the orange pithiness in the back of, like, even if you think of like the most generic ones, like even a Shock Top or a Blue Moon, have that like orange pithiness to them.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, that's
but
true.
yeah, not bitter. They're pretty accessible and not overly bitter.
Right.
Like,
Maybe
And
just in
a
comparison
pretty-
to them.
And a pretty typical note on that, which actually goes quite well with the additions here, is that bit of kind of peppery spice to it, which I find actually goes quite well with the gin botanical additions.
Yeah, man. It's super tasty. And I can feel like... So this one is the flagship, you said?
it's the one that, like, even though it wasn't in the original batch, it's definitely by far our most popular and our best seller, and it's the one beer we have that transcends from like the snobbiest of beer snobs to the most basic grocery store or little corner store that you've got. Like, it sells everywhere and it's popular.
Interesting.
Across. Like, it's the one that if people are only ordering one beer from us, it's this one typically.
Oh shit! Why do you guys think that? Is it because, like, you know, Blanches are quite popular across Quebec? Is it because of that, and this is, like I said, like an elevated version of that, or is it just the gin side appeals to people? Like, what's the vibes?
I think both.
Sorry, Mike. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, I think, like, it's a lot of places keep it as their white, like to have a white, and they say elevated, so it's a craft white essentially. Right. Like, it's but it's accessible enough to anyone who just their reference points are those ones I talked about, like I said earlier, the more macro versions. It's kind of touches on all those bases, but it's also, like you said, it's got that gin character. When I do tastings, a lot of people, like, that's what they remark on. Or at a festival, you say you've got a beer that tastes like gin, they want to taste it, because even if they don't like beer, they might like gin. Obviously, if they don't like beer or gin, this is not the beer for them. Even if they don't like beer, but they like gin. Like, I think I've given this to my parents before. They're both big into gin. They're British, so of course they are. Of course. And this is the beer that they like the most.
That makes sense.
It's accessibility, I think, that's really...
I love that. This is awesome, boys.
It's pretty unique too. Like, I don't see many gin whites. I don't think I've ever seen a gin white, and I don't think I know of one right now, unless I'm mistaken. But it's the kind of only one in its category right now in Quebec, which makes it pretty, cool for us to have something that unique.
Right.
So it stands out a bit.
Sick. No, I love that, and it's even cooler, I guess, that you've collaborating with the distiller, at least originally, in your neighborhood, and it's ties the sort of area together as well, which is even cooler because I feel like the Point St. Charles had like I want to say renaissance, but like it was sort of all of a sudden. I think you guys came in, the Meso came in, and then these guys, and I think that what's that coffee place that's like a contract coffee joint?
The Canadian Roasting Society?
Thank you, them. Yeah. So, like, I feel like there's just like a bunch of cooler stuff like that in the area, and it's like it's tying it all together. I like it a lot. I think it's great, guys. I love this shit. So I know we got deflected with our Transbroue story, but I'm glad you said it on here because I'm sure there are people who would be wondering. I personally was wondering. So we'll talk about Origin Brasse, which is the new space in Dorval. So do you want to maybe talk through the reasons? I'd love to know, like, why you guys wanted to do it, what the intention was, what you were trying to create there, and then how it's all gone for the last couple of years.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we were very lucky with our location in Point St. Charles. It was pretty popular kind of immediately, and we seemed to run out of space the first 6 months, I think we were open, we ran out of brewing capacity.
Wow.
So we were having trouble keeping up, and we continued to have trouble keeping up. And then we were always thinking about it. I'm like, oh, did we go maybe a bit too small? Like, do we have to rearrange the way we think about this? And then, the demand in restaurants and bars and beer stores and grocery stores kept on going up. We hit issues with our canning line because we're using a third-party canning supplier, and we didn't have enough space to add a canning line in our current location.
Okay.
We were short of warehousing space, so we messed up on a lot of things. We did well with the tap room and like the brewery side, but we messed up on a lot of space considerations when it came to like auxiliary things in a brewery. So then a huge whammy was that our building got purchased by a large developer in the area. So we were dealing with like a small business owner. He was independent. He really liked our beer. He was cool to us, but he was on the older side and wanted to retire. And I guess he had this plan to sell the building, and he did. So we heard some rumors that they wanted to build like a 14-story building or something like that with condos and all this. So we were like, oh shit! Like, we had a 5-year plus a 5-year, but when it comes to these developers, you don't know, what their power is and what they can do. So, we were like, maybe it's the right time to start looking now to kind of protect ourselves. I mean, we needed more space anyway. We needed a canning line for sure. We were renting office space in another location because it was too hot to work in the brewery, and the tap room would open early enough to like piss off all the employees because the music was on, like no one could concentrate. So we were like, oh man, I think we need to find another spot. And so we were looking, and back then, this was just before COVID, about a year before COVID or 8 months before. There wasn't a lot of empty space available for breweries. Like, either the owners like didn't want alcohol, or they didn't want the smell that was associated to beer, to brewing. And then with Amazon growing as it was, there was a lot of businesses needing all this like high ceiling warehouse space. And Montreal rent was like relatively low, so a lot of businesses moved in. So the vacancy rate was under 1%, I think, for like this type of space we needed. So either we had like 2,000 square feet available, which is like half the size of what we were already in. So we're like, we can't do that. Or there was 20,000 square feet available, which was like, too big.
Right.
We ended up going the 20,000 for square foot route because we didn't really have a choice. But we found a nice location in the West Island, and we were like, we should always have a tap room associated to our production facility to keep the same like ethos that we had when we first opened up. Because the reasoning behind that was like, we didn't just want to produce, we wanted to, talk to people. We wanted to get, their feedback, and like, we wanted to create an experience too, where people could come and, talk to us and experience the beer with the people. So we didn't want to lose that. We didn't want to just have like a huge production facility and become like a beer distributor and all that stuff. We wanted to keep that proximity. So we went 20,000 square feet, and then we built the restaurant. Well, we wanted the tap room, but the city really wanted us to serve food with beer. So they're like, you can't serve alcohol without food. And it's kind of like a blessing in disguise, because during COVID, I think people changed their habits a bit. It's hard right now downtown seeing people ask for food a lot. Like, it's like, do you guys serve food? I think is the top question. So we even ended up adding a food truck downtown in the summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Um,
Smart.
so yeah, we went with a full on restaurant, and it's hard. It's harder than a brewery, I think, but it's very gratifying when you get it right and you have like good nights where you're busy and stuff, and thank God we did, because it's very busy. It's very popular in the West Island. There's no craft beer in the West Island.
Right.
Aside from La Brasse, who's close to us, they have a tap room. But besides that, there's no restaurant or bar in the West Island that carries craft beer. It's very, very, very limited, if like non-existent. Whereas downtown, you have a lot of like craft beer, restaurants and like bars that have multiple craft beer lines. Even though it's like not as much as I would want to, but it's still better than the West Island, which has like literally nothing.
Wow.
So, and there's a big population. There's like 200,000 people in the West Island, I think. Mike, I don't know the stats, but there's a lot of people that live there and a lot of businesses. So we're in a super industrial area, but it's on a very busy street. There's a lot of people that work there. So we have busy lunches, and 5 sets are good, and then the locals come for dinner and stuff. So we're again very fortunate location.
We're next door to Bombardier, so like they come in from like huge, like people driving out for work from all across Montreal. So we get a lot of like at lunch is a very busy time for it. Like we have and that's why the light lager we had before, people are coming in for lunch.
Right.
And also, the West Island, something to consider is people are often driving to come to see us. That's just a reality of it. So having lighter beers, more like easy drinking beers, and beers with food is key. But yeah, it's
that's about the only way that's about the only way you can manage to have like one or two. And like that's not an insignificant business consideration either, because if you've kind of got a situation where someone's driving out there and they can't really have more than one, and like if they don't have food, then like that's like how long are they going to stay, and and all that. So like that's not insignificant.
I just double checked. It's 238,000 population.
Also. 138,000?
No, 238. So you nailed it.
238. Okay, great. Sorry,
it was
it's cutting out.
Yeah, it was cutting out when we were all talking. Sorry, guys.
No worries. So we built it too with big windows separating the production facility and the restaurant. Also, so people could have that. Because in Quebec, we're the only province, and I think only area in North America, and like I think you could even include Mexico in there, where your brewery has to be separated from your, like completely separated and shut off from your serving area. So in Ontario, to give you an example, I don't know if you've ever been to Bandit Brewery.
I have, yes.
Yeah.
You could probably touch the tanks if you're like sitting at some of the picnic tables over there. And there's multiple breweries like that in Ontario, but in Quebec you can't do that. Even your tap room has to be separated. So our tap room, we went over the laws like 100 times. So we absolutely wanted people, when they come in, to people get a whiff of the malt and the hot, like we wanted people to stink of a brew after they left. So we built it with, we asked the governing body, like, we don't want to close the brewery. Like, what do we have to do? So they're like, well, you could put a 10-foot wall, and your biggest tank has to be like at least 12 feet away from that wall. Blah, blah, blah. There was a bunch of things, but the biggest thing was we had to build, we had to make the wall like sanitary for the whole building, so not just the brewery side. So we have to use like food grade plastic covering on every square foot of the ceiling and the walls, including in the tap room.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Yeah, so it cost us quite a bit, but it was totally worth it. like all the whole ceiling at the brewery is covered with like food grade, like plastic covering, in our original tap room. But you could see the brewery super well, and you definitely could smell the brews when they're happening. So
that's what you want.
Yeah, that's what we wanted. But yeah, Quebec has very very strict rules when it comes to production, which is like super weird because you can't find these rules in any other country in the world. I think now that I think of it. So, but anyway, so our restaurant has to be completely separated, but we did put like big windows that separate the brew house from the tap room. You could really see in detail the brew house, so it's cool.
That's dope. And then the whole kitchen is in there, and it's like, is the restaurant separated from the tap room, or it's kind of like bar space and then tables?
No, it's all everything is in one room. The kitchen is kind of open too, so you could see everybody cooking. It's not like hidden in the back.
Nice.
So it was a similar thinking in that way, and like we get a lot of people that love it because when you see how hard these guys work during the rush, you kind of like are more patient when the food like takes a little bit longer. Like you see 5 guys like going like this, and you're like, oh my god, they're not just slacking
standing around.
Yeah. So
that's smart.
It's still got as well that little like there's a tap room vibe. We've got the beer hall like tables as well, like lining up
for
the
long
big
ones.
Groups.
Yeah,
the long ones with the benches and stuff for the bigger groups, which works out. Like it keeps that kind of matches the two kind of places. Like our tap room is a lot more they're both industrial, but like the restaurant's a bit more like upmarket industrial, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is a little bit more.
Okay. So then
it attracts a lot of people that aren't beer
like
drinkers.
beer
The West Island doesn't have a lot of independent restaurants. Like it has a lot of little ones. It doesn't have any like. We're the only people doing sourdough pizza in the West Island, for example. Like there's a lot of chains.
Then
there's a lot of chains. There are a lot of independents. That does a disservice to it, but they're scattered around, and you have to know exactly where they are and find
where you go.
Yeah.
Really
it's a pretty typical vibe of like the suburby neighborhoods of the bigger cities in Canada, I find.
It's having something that kind of stands out. There's more and more coming in. I think as people like older millennials are moving out to the suburbs slightly. There's been a few more places in the West Island that open up, like Tunnel Espresso just opened up, and like different
Tunnel
local West Island, yeah.
Sick.
So like
I love that place.
Tunnel, and they're now in the Indigo in Point Claire, like Pigeon Cafe moved out, like a lot of little third wave cafes.
That's dope. Yeah. I used to love Tunnel
Little
Espresso.
breweries opening up, like, but like we're the only. Like I said, Labrador's have been there a while. They've had their tap room, and we love those guys. We're working with them this year. To be details to be confirmed. But I'm doing bringing the West Island together, via scene. But like we've got a lot of people coming in just for the food, and then the beer is kind of secondary to them, and then people that come for the beer and like the food is great enough to keep them sticking around.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask about. Go on, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say there's two. We see it on the different vibes as well. Downtown, anything new we produce, it goes very quickly. Whereas in the West Island, it's classics. It's things like Bontanik. It's things like the Origin Lager. It's the Reds. It's the like straight drinking. This is the kind of beer I want with my dinner. Kind of drink compared to I'm going out for a drink. What's new?
Gotcha. And then it completely conforms to kind of what you would expect. That's great. That actually makes life a bit easier for you guys because then you get more predictability and such. What's the food like? What kind of fare are you guys doing?
We kept it pretty simple, but our kind of prerequisite was like everything was kind of made in-house. Like we're not buying frozen stuff from outside. So like our best-selling item is now fish and chip.
Nice.
Maybe it's Mike.
It's just me. That's wholeheartedly me ordering everyone.
Just mushy peas out the ass. As far as
That's an image I didn't want right now.
Is there mushy peas though? But does it come with that?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe you got to work on that, brother.
It's tartar sauce and there's a tartar sauce and like coleslaw, I think.
Okay, you know the mushy peas.
Yeah.
Have you seen them, Keegan? The British mush. It's just like peas squished up. I hate them, but
I've never seen.
It's-
No. You know what? It looks like the contents of someone's like handkerchief.
yeah.
Oh my
it's- But Tiffany loves it. We went to like a fancy oyster place for my birthday recently, and they had like fucking, I think it was the scallops with like bacon on top of these like fancy mushy peas. And then like the server, who was the owner, came over and he's like, "Oh, you don't like the peas?" I was like, "Oh, I don't really eat them, bro." And I was like, "Fuck it, I'll try it." And you pressured me. And it wasn't that bad. It was kind of he was like, when you grow up, because we grew up eating peas, but I was like that. He goes, "Why don't you like them?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, my parents used to force me to eat them when I was a kid." He's like, "Were they frozen?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, it tastes like nothing." He goes, "This has flavor." And I was like, "Oh, it's very different." So, maybe I'm not going to be a mushy pea
The
hater.
English version of Vegemite.
Oh no, we have Marmite.
That shit is hard to eat, man. Oh my god.
You got to do it right. Do you like Marmite then, Mike?
Huh?
Do you like Marmite?
Yeah, I love Marmite.
Do you like Vegemite? Or are you like a...
I haven't tried Vegemite, but I imagine it's the same.
It's different.
Peanut butter and Marmite together. Boom.
Oh, interesting. Okay, maybe I should try that. I'm going through a bit of a thing right now. I used to live right behind TA Pies, which is like an Aussie, Kiwi, British shop in Montreal, and it was like I could just walk downstairs and go get Vegemite and all other fun Aussie snacks. And now, this is completely off topic, but the parent company of Vegemite is stopping the export of Vegemite, and there's an Aussie cafe in Toronto that has a few places, and there's one in Guelph. So I kind of got to know him a little bit because I used to go there and buy it, and now he's like, they're cutting that shit off, so he's getting like one last pallet of like larger jars, and it might cost me like $400 for like a case, but it'll last me years, and then I'm fucked. I'm fucked. I know what to do.
That stuff at least doesn't go bad, does it?
No, I've had expired Vegemite, 4 or 5 year expired, and it's fine. It's yeast it's just black shit in a jar. It's fine.
Maybe that's not business like Keegan. It's just yeast extract, right? Like it comes from originally the offshoot of Burton Brewing, like all the brewing in Burton on Trent.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the black tar that they scraped off the inside of the tanks, and then people started eating it.
You guys really make it sound appetizing.
Yeah.
It's better than it sounds, is all I can say. And you got to try it properly. It's like people will go in, they'll slather it like peanut butter, and they'll be like, "This is gross." I'm like, "Yeah, dickhead, you got to be like real, thin with it." And it's
My parents
go on.
once bought me a tub back from the UK. I was so terrified to go through customs because it's basically just yeast. Like,
I was in my nut. Well, Mike, you can go to the TA Pies, has Marmite.
The stores, yeah.
Yeah, so in case you do need it. They ran out of Vegemite one time, and they had Promite, which I don't know where that's from. I don't know if it's Australian or British. And they had Marmite, and I tried the Promite, and it's so different. Vegemite is like so much better. Anyway, we digress. It's a
This is now a Vegemite podcast.
Yeah, this is Vegemite and other shit. That's
Yeah.
Do you know what?
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Oh my god.
We got them. Yeah, you know the fucking vibes. The whole, like, can you believe they make shoes for this shit? They're like all branded, all the stuff. Like they've made like Aussie brands now, or like collaborating. Like it's like if Snickers collaborated with Lay's. Like they're like big brands, and they're working together on like mashing up flavors and all. It's this weird thing that I don't understand why. I like it, but now you got Vegemite shoes, hats, tea towels, underwear, socks, everything. The best.
It was kind of like that one weird campaign when I think it was like French's Mustard was collabing with Oscar Blues for that weird mustard beer, and then there was like a cooler and a camping chair and all this other shit for it.
That sounds basically the same thing, but picture that with like every brand. Like in the supermarket, they're all like, it's weird watching it from afar. I'm like, what's going on? Or they'll bring out all these iterations of something that's like, I could go on forever anyway. It's digressing too far.
They actually did Marmite Walkers, which is Lay's in the UK. Those were like...
They did those? Yes, every time.
One summer. It was the best summer.
Really? Okay. Tiffany, most of her family is in London. And every time someone goes, they always bring over Walkers for her because she loves like the cheese and onion ones. So I'll see if the Marmite was a one-time thing. It wasn't an always thing.
I think so. I mean, it was a one time. I never saw it again. It was like we had ketchup for that same ketchup chips for that same summer, but then Canada latched onto those forever.
Right. So, I like that. Okay. This is great. Sorry, we completely digress. So either way,
should we get back to talking about Four Origins, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe we should. Maybe we should. Sorry, guys. This has been a bit of a what do you call it? Like a tangent pod. Yeah, it's a catch. That's what we said. We said it in the beginning. It's a catch up. We're just hanging out. So there's going to be Vegemite on toast, on sourdough bread at Origin Brasse and Marmite. You can compare it.
Let's do it, Mike. I'm ready.
That would be kind of fun, especially if you had it on fire ass bread and then they did it properly, and then you could get cut it in half and have half Marmite, half Vegemite, and see which one you like. And maybe it's neither, but that could be fun.
Yeah, it's mostly neither.
It's mostly what?
It's going to be mostly neither, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be mostly. Most people I know have no interest in it at all, and they try it. And we had, when I was learning French in Montreal, I keep tangenting, learning French in Montreal, we had a Polish teacher that was from Poland, but he's teaching us French, and he said he loved Vegemite, and I wasn't really eating much toast at the time, and I felt I gave him a big ass jar that if they sold that jar here, it's probably worth like $30. And in front of me in class, he got a spoon and took a spoon and then ate it off the spoon. I've never seen anyone to this day do that. Is psychopathic. I couldn't believe it because it's almost like
that's
spicy
level. Like that is like the equivalent. That's disgusting.
Yeah, that's like eating a full chili or something. Like like you're crazy. You're genuinely insane. So it's not the move. Yeah, what if you can make beer from it? You probably can't. It probably tastes like you could make a stout or something. Maybe
it's the opposite way around. It's what's left.
It's what's left. Yeah, you can put it back in. It's not going to do jack. We're talking about the food. Okay, and you mentioned you got the sourdough wood-fired pizzas as well. So there's fish and chips, mushy peas coming soon, and the pizzas.
Yeah, pizzas. Sourdough pizzas are probably, I'd say, our most popular thing. Like if you take all the pizzas together, I guess. But we sell a lot of hamburgers too, and we have chicken wings, but we don't do like just the regular like small chicken wings with the drum. We take the whole kind of leg.
The whole leg.
Yeah. We have a loaded fry that's like amazing. It's with pork belly and like a beer sauce on it. It's delicious.
Stop.
That's when you fall asleep.
Making me hungry. That's making me hungry.
If you have that at lunch, you're not doing anything that afternoon. Like that,
that's a heavy lunch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That sounds delicious.
We do a fried chicken burger with like a spicy beer sauce on it, which is super good. Yeah, those are kind of like our most popular things, but we have like weekly specials all the time, so we like freshen it up.
We've done a few specials at the time with beer releases, like when we did a maple beer for Sugar Shack season, and we had a like maple menu. And
nice.
The St. Patty's menu, those pretty cool.
Is it? Yeah. It's Cabana Souk season now too, isn't it? Or is
it's just coming to the end? But yeah.
To the end.
It's kind of ending. Yeah.
Oh damn! I missed that. That was always something fun about Quebec. I felt like you always.
Cabana Souk, you do that when you still got snow on the ground.
Yeah, that's
like
that is
Easter's
true.
like cut off more or less, and Easter was early this year. So
yeah, and I guess it's been less snow on the ground than usual. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So all that food. Okay, I see what you mean. Like elevated, like typical brewery food, but just a little more like, I like it.
We just started doing brunch as well, so we got we opened at 11:30, so we started a brewer's brunch.
Sick.
Okay, tell us about that. Give us an example of
brunches,
what's on the brunch menu.
The best, please.
Well, obviously, like we have pancakes and pain doré, like French toast.
Nice.
There's avocado toast.
Nice.
The millennials.
Yeah, the millennials.
Yeah. We have a breakfast pizza as well. Yeah, a bunch of little things. We're trying it out. It's been 2 weeks so far. 2 weeks. With the third one, so bringing it in. We do beer mimosas, and obviously like beer and cocktails. There's a big brunch like audience in the West Island. A lot of people go out for brunch. So
lots of families.
Families doing it. That's cool to know. Yeah, Montreal was like, I feel like I haven't really done brunch. We have a dog now, so it's a different life. But like, I feel like in Montreal, that like we never went out for dinner. We only ever went out for brunch. And there's so much good brunch in Montreal. Fuck, making me miss all this stuff. That's sick. I love that you guys are doing that and like bringing that to the like a different experience than to the West Island.
That's it. Like, family has always been really important as well. Like in the tap room downtown, we dogs and kids and everyone are welcome. And then same thing like in the West Island. Like it's Origin Brasse has become my kid's favorite restaurant. Like he has to go and see Genevieve, our manager, keeps a little Spider-Man in the corner, and he has to see him. Same with Kobe likes to go see Spider-Man as well. So,
yeah, my son has stolen. So he actually is obsessed with Spider-Man now because he saw the little Spider-Man or a bigger Spider-Man figurine. Well, the same one that Genevieve has in the tap room was like the regular Spider-Man, but she had a black Spider-Man before, like that was black and red. Yeah,
there was a name for that one. It was like the bad one or something, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't.
You're thinking of Venom, but no, that's not what he's talking about.
Oh yeah, it was like a different suit. I don't know. It looked like a regular Spider-Man, but he had a black suit on with it's red stripes. Anyway, he took it.
It's like the Miles Morales suit or something.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So he was, I don't know, he was like 3 years old, 3.5, and he took it, and now he's like totally obsessed with Spider-Man. Like, he wants Spider-Man stories. He has a Spider-Man costume that he wears like almost every night.
That's cute.
Man, he makes me listen to the Spider-Man theme song every morning on the way to work. It's just like...
Maybe if I was a lot of time because it's the same here. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the same thing.
All the time.
Oh my god, all the time.
Yeah.
Daddy, look, I'm spinning some webs. It's so cute. Anyway.
Oh, children. That's awesome. It's a vibe out there. So it's a Spider-Man vibes in the tap room. Yeah. Love to see it.
Absolutely.
Ready for the kids.
The smallest part of it, but
the smallest part, but it's there
with 2 specific kids in the West Island. So.
Okay, I love that. That's amazing. So I'm looking at the time. Basically, I forgot to tell you beforehand. We're trying to like pace sort of the beers maybe every 30 minutes. I know we just keep yapping and doing it. So obviously it's not always possible to crush all of them fully. We always finish them at the end. What's next, boys?
I believe we have something that goes down pretty easy. It goes down easy.
Okay. That's the name of the beer.
Oh, well done. Well done.
That was very slick, Mike. That was very slick.
All right, I'll be back.
It's like I write the marketing stuff.
It's like, you definitely know the guy at least.
I
label.
Sent you guys the last cans that we had, except for Keegan's one. So I have a slightly different variant.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have, I believe it's guava, mango, pineapple.
Oh shit!
I have peach, passion fruit, and tangerine.
Nice.
Which is one we did for the DBSQ Advent calendar exclusively this Christmas just gone. We always tend to try and do at least one other version of Goes Down Easy. You guys have the original recipe Goes Down Easy.
Okay.
We always try and throw in something different. We've done watermelon and mint before. We've done what's the other one? We did agave lime last year as well. So yeah.
That's dope. So it's a series that's sort of been around for a little bit.
Yeah, I think it came out in 2020 to start with. I was looking back because we actually, for the anniversary we have coming up, our 6th anniversary, we're doing a smoothie version of this beer.
What? Are you kidding me? Michael, I didn't think that was...
Oh, it's our second smoothie. They come out once a year, but they do arrive.
No shit.
We collabed with Sir John last year on a smoothie, and Sir Fruitalot, I believe it's called, right?
That's a
that was so good. That was it.
And we learned a lot from working with them, and we get a lot of people asking for smoothies or slush on the patio there, especially downtown. So
yeah, I can see that.
We were given another go this year, and what better to go with Goes Down Easy? So it's going to be called Goes Down Smoothly, and it'll be
like that.
The thick version with multiple C's of this.
Multiple C's. I love it. I remember I've told people multiple times, and I think this was you who told me this, Keegan. I think we were chatting one time, and you were like, "Yo, this because of the way smoothies have kind of gone crazy." You said people will come in and drink like a sour and be like, "Hey, it's not like, what's going on? Why isn't it like drinking like a smoothie?" Like they didn't know that sours existed in other formats. And I thought that was, I always thought that was such a funny anecdote that like that's where it's got, and it always is the one to me that like positions the newer beer drinkers who were introduced. They think an IPA is yellow and hazy. They think a sour is a smoothie. They think a stout is 12% and has coconuts and birthday cakes in it. You know, like they don't know much else. I just always think that's like such a funny thing.
Yeah,
not a bad thing necessarily, just a funny observation.
Yeah, it's just funny how how your perception of what a style might be could change depending on what you're first introduced to.
Exactly, and when you got into it and stuff, we've had all different experiences.
And smoothies are very new for
generally speaking.
For what, 3 years old, 4 years old? Like, was it Brewski that started it? Making it?
You know what, Derek? I thought it was. He thinks it's. Who do you say it was, Nate? I think he thinks it was Masorum did it just 2 weeks before them. No. Right. It wasn't. No, it was. What's the fucking guys? Red can. They usually have red labels. They're not. I don't know if they have a physical space or if they do, it's far. Nouvelle France. Nouvelle France did it first.
Oh shit! Yes, that's who he said it was.
They did it first, and then. That's what he said. I tell everyone it was Brewski, and he was like, "No, bro." Like he said, it was Nouvelle France did it first, then Masorum, then them. But he goes, but we got known for it more than everybody else.
Because they brew more of them than anyone else. I think anytime I've been there, there's always been at least one smoothie in cans on offer.
Yes. Yeah. So I think it's just they did it more often and just got known for it quicker. Maybe they got better at it quicker because they did it more often or something. Maybe the other guys were just doing, here's one, and they were just like, fucking let's go. So could be that.
I think when Keegan says without some of ours get mistaken a little bit, we are almost equidistant from Masorum and Brewski. We're right in the middle of the two. Right. And they have juice series. Masorum have Petit Jus du Mort, and we have Juice Box, which is just our sour. So they're all juice something. I think it's a very fun little bar crawl if you do that, by the way. And now there's Memento in between. Get a big C and come and do our little bar crawl.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful walk down the canal.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. I want to sip this goddamn... It really is. I want to sip this beer. Sorry, this is a 4.8% Gose, like you said. Was it pineapple, guava, mango?
Yeah.
And you got the... different one?
I got peach, passion fruit, and tangerine.
Tangerine, that's right. Gentlemen, get that in you.
Cheers.
Nose is wicked.
That's kind of a testament to this summer already with the milder winter and the sunnier spring. We've kind of been having a little bit. So we're already out of our sours, and we were like, we did not expect to be out of sours this quickly.
We've never sold sours this fast.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
We usually have it for a while, and I was like, okay, they're coming. Okay, we still have inventory. All of a sudden, nothing. So I'm like, oh shit, we have so many brews planned in between the sours than we have to put out. So our sours are our sours, we were selling them in January, February, and I think February was warmer, way warmer than usual. Mm-hmm. So it just launched the sour, craze a little bit earlier than we're used to. So we're completely out of sours. We have maybe one left in limited quantity, so I'm a little pissed, but it's good, I guess. They're coming out in May.
Is that okay? So it's more coming out then, but why are you pissed? Just because it's it's too soon?
No, because I don't have enough to
because you ran out. Gotcha.
To give to
yeah. It's just saying you got to be able to plan months in advance, and it's
you can you're supposed to predict the weather now.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is wild. This is really good, guys. I really enjoyed this. This is super crushable. It's 4.8, so it's light, but there's tons of flavor there. It's tart, tangy. It's kind of I can very much see why this would sell out quickly, because it's the perfect. You sitting there and the sun's shining down, beating on your face, buzz, and it's exactly what you need to, it's not too sweet, a little bit, not too much, mostly tart and tangy, but not I feel like it's perfect, because if it's sometimes you maybe used to sours that are either intense on the smoothie side or intense if it's maybe more barrel aged or something like that, and it's a bit more that puckering. I feel like this is perfect. It's got a ton of it's super tart and tangy, but it's not gonna overdo it when you're in the sun because you might not necessarily want that. Plus, it's also, I feel like with you guys, I was going to also mention this before, I feel like a lot of the stuff you guys are doing are more gateway in the best possible way. I think gateway is the most underrated and undervalued thing that any brewery can do, because that's everything we need to do is welcome more people into beer. And whilst the crazy stuff is fun and everything, they typically speak to the choir, preach to the choir, which is all of us. So something like this is fun enough.
Your palate has to develop, I think. Like, Nathan, I think you mentioned it. If you start right away with smoothies, I guess it's okay, but like it might skew the way you view beer, you know? So
yeah,
absolutely.
And that was always like kind of our goal was to like be, you know, slowly get people, you know, liking craft beer, like to start them from the most basic to then bring them on. And we make a pretty wide variety of beer, so there's always, like, when you come to the tap room, there's always a beer for kind of everybody. But we wanted to specialize in like that accessible beer, that I guess that gateway beer is a good way of putting it. So I think a lot of our customers are, you know, just regular people that want to support a local brewery that like good flavor, and like to discover new things, and sometimes just want a basic blonde that's, you know, not $11. And yeah, especially nowadays, like it's the biggest, you know, a lot of times people are like, you know, what's, you have something around $7-8. Sometimes it's our best sellers. And yeah, and then still give them the option once they get there to like then get into the big double New England IPAs or the smoothies, or just stay with the, you know, the easier stuff.
Yeah. Have you guys noticed then, since it's coming up on the 6-year anniversary and now you've got 2 spots in 2 different parts of the island, have you had any sort of like, have you noticed anything like that? Any sort of trends as far, I mean, some of the things you just said, Keegan, but like in general, like, have you found that people would come in and say, oh, I don't really like beer, and you're like, cool, let me show you a few things, or like, you know, they'll be like, I drink Stella, and then you've seen them, you give them a blonde, and then they start progressing up the chain. Like, have you seen a lot of, like, I guess what I'm sort of getting at is like the end result of the gateway intention, meaning someone coming in not really knowing much or nothing or not liking it at all, and then converting them to a full-on craft beer drinker?
I'd say I'm a pretty good example of that.
Yeah,
like I started.
Mike's a good example.
Yeah, like that started me off on it. I worked up through the styles, just going down the road to my local brewery, and then ended up like becoming the massive beer nerd I am right now. So.
How did it start for you? That's awesome. Like, I didn't even consider that. How did it start? Because I think for us, I know I didn't have like a brewery that taught me. I did the stupid selfie thing, and that just made me try more stuff. But for you, like, how did that go? And it's perfect because how did that go at Quatre Origines specifically? Like, where did you start? You know, you said you drank cider before, so then where did you start, and how did you adjust and all of that?
I've been drinking like once I moved to Quebec, I started drinking IPAs because it was the most bang for your buck. Like just by like L'Oréal stuff.
L'Oréal
but
like
when
6%.
Origins opened up, I guess I tried some of the they were my first sours were Origin sours. I'm still sours are probably in my least favorite category of beer, but I still I like what Origins does with them because they're not too intense, instant heartburn or like too too thick smoothie, overly sweet. But yeah, like I wouldn't, that's not the key example, but definitely it was like a lot of the Origins beers were my first introductions to their respective styles. So I then went out and drank everything under the sun, but it was a lot of it was because like when you're drinking, especially like in the tap room is such a great location on the canal, just sitting like while away an afternoon there, and they're all accessible drinkable beers, so you can have multiple ones and you can just have a whole tasting. I mean, like Keegan, you'd say back me on that, but the tasting flight is still one of our most popular, like the one that sells highest in both locations is one of the tasting flights is like the item that gets rung up the most.
During the week it's less now downtown. I think we have way more regulars than so like they kind of just Their
know what they
tasting
want.
flight now is like 4 pints instead of like the 4 5-ounce beers.
Right.
Like, they
Yeah,
want
it's
the
better.
full tasting experience. So, which that's how I like to taste beer. I need to have a pint. Like, I can't just have a 5-ounce.
Same, bro.
Yeah.
But there are still a lot of people that like to try. They'll come as a couple. I see this the most. They come as a couple and they each get a tasting palette, and so they're tasting 8 beers. They're splitting each taster, which I'm not.
And then they're just kind of like getting like 2.5 ounces of each. And sorry, I interrupted you, Keegan.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not getting a lot, but like I see it a lot. But the goal, I think, with these taster palettes is to like remove the fear of trying something new. So
Yeah.
sometimes you look at this huge craft beer menu and you're like new to craft beer and you're like, well, I'm just going to go with the blonde. What's your blonde? Most of the time. But if you put this taster palette together where you can get like 4 different ones, or even with us, we tell our staff, we're like, if people want to try something and they really look unsure, just give them a taster of whatever they want.
Yeah.
Just give it to them.
And he has his drink club there, the little tasters, little
the
beer
little
from
taster
time
club.
if you're at
People
the
that
bar,
come and just
and
to
you're
say
trying
hi
to
and
get
like have a
it,
taster, and they're like, oh, later. So and then so it removes a lot of like the barrier to trying kind of new things or getting introduced to new styles. So that's why we kept it at both locations. And in the West Island, it's always the number one seller is the taster palette.
Is it?
I'm guessing. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, is it like predetermined? Like you go, I want that one. You've already picked the beers, or do they get to choose?
No, they choose.
Gotcha. Okay.
And if we have invited beers sometimes, like we invite other breweries on our lines and stuff, and like they're able to try those ones too.
Gotcha.
So, it's just kind of a different experience than like if you go to another bar. Like bars don't usually do this because it's time consuming. There's more waste involved. It basically like really ties up a server or like the bartender for quite a bit. Like she has to properly pour 4 different little small items and then place them in a little cartridge and like put it in the right spot and make sure it doesn't spill. So it's a little time consuming and really terrible for service, but it's good in a service sense that it's like providing like a cool experience for a customer. And most of the time, after they've tried the 4 beers, they usually grab a pint of a beer within those 4 that they like.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's like it's a great gateway or introductory tool, essentially.
Yeah.
And I guess if it's popular enough that it's selling, and then that leads to a full pint, and then like you said, that's actually good anecdotal evidence that the downtown location now is selling less flights because you're getting more regulars because they've already done that and they liked it so much they're coming back and they're not scared to walk in, and then if there's something new they go, oh, give me a pint of that, I don't care, like give me a full pour as opposed to give me that 5 ounce. I like that. That's a really good sign. So you guys are really actively converting people. I love that.
Yeah, but like people coming in the West Island, if people are bringing their friends along, like I've had it, even like my mother-in-law has ordered a flight at Origin Brasse because like I'm in a brewery for dinner, I'm gonna order a flight of beer, see what they do, even though they won't drink beer necessarily. And then in future times we've been there, has ordered a pint of something, like it's the first time people come along, maybe their friend brings them, maybe their colleague brings them, you come in for a work lunch or something, it's like, okay, I'll give the taste of palate a try. And it kind of it's where it's still only a couple of years in at the restaurant, and like slowly building that gateway to people there, which I guess is...
That's important, man. I don't think it is important.
Yeah.
So with that, that location generally, like, was there a specific goal or anything that you guys want to achieve there, or it's like obviously it's opened up new production, the revenue streams and volume as well, plus the restaurant, the food side that you don't have downtown. Is there anything that you guys are trying to, in the future, like, hey, yeah, we want to do X there or anything like that? Or is it kind of just like, let that bad boy just keep growing? And then I imagine being it's 20,000 square feet, you probably got room to move for, more fermenters and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, we have space for more fermenters. We might want to get into cider at some point,
Cool.
uh, because we love cider, and
Or Mike loves cider. Mike's trying to
Mike
bring it
also
in.
loves cider. I don't know if I haven't seen him drink cider actually, but
These fucking Brits.
I used to work in the cider industry for a while. I started actually in cider.
Okay.
Michel Jourdain is like an old producer in Rougemont. He's been around for like 100 years, but I really love cider a lot, and I think like we'll probably stop there and focus on beer. We did start making non-alcoholic sparkling teas.
Hell
So,
yes. I think I've had
yeah,
those.
those.
Like the teas paired with a fruit, wasn't
Yes.
it? Yeah.
Well, it's a tea. It's a fruited tea. So like we have a strawberry mandarin one. We have a passion fruit one. We have a jasmine blueberry one. So like our challenge with that one is that so when people taste it, they absolutely love it, and like the repeat business is like sometimes higher than beer, because not nobody actually makes sparkling tea in Quebec, and it started off as like a hop water project. So we do actually put hops in these too.
That's what I had. Before I left, you had it was a hop water with a tea with a fruit, or am I?
That's right.
That was correct. Okay.
That's right. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Super fun.
we
That
stuck
was
with it, but I think it was like getting a little confusing for people.
Right.
So we just stuck with like the sparkling tea portion, and it's amazing. But you know, there is a little bit of confusion around it because people are not exactly sure what it is because it's kind of new. Like hop water is not really known in Quebec, so you go to a convenience store or a grocery store, and you're like, "Can you?" Do you want to try this out? And they're like, okay, but where do I put it? Like, it doesn't go in the beer section. It goes in the non-alcoholic section, but does it? And then they're like, is it go in the soft drinks? Like, they're not sure. It kind of ends up in between the beer section and the non-alcoholic section. And it gets lost sometimes. So that's our...
I personally had a big issue like in the stores because the beer, like typically I would go and speak to the guy who manages the beer and the non-alcoholic beer. But really, should I be talking to the guy who sells the soda, but then like with a sparkling water essentially? But then I'm going up against the rep from Bubbly. Like it's kind of like I'm more artisanal product than that, but it's kind of in the beer stream because it's got hops in it. Should it be in there? But there's only one wall of non-alcoholic stuff, and everyone has a non-alcoholic beer. It seems like now we're trying to find where it fits in. And exactly what to do with it, but it's popular in other locations.
That's great.
But we sell it through our pubs.
Okay, so it's like on tap. You can get it on draft.
No, just in cans. Yeah.
Just in cans. That's great. It's I know. That was kind of like a good segue. I was curious like where that sort of what that market's looking like in Quebec. I know out here it's non-alcoholics become pretty popular. I always felt that Quebec were ahead of the game with the low ABV stuff like years ago. I'm talking like 2018. I did pods with what's that fucking place? Beerolog. And all the beers we did were under 5%. We did like 4 or 5 beers or something. And that was like, what do you mean 2%? What are you talking? Like, I was really like, that was when we did it in person. I was like, what is happening here? And then I felt like that sort of, you guys really, like, Quebec really owned that. And I felt like Ontario were a little quicker to jump on the non-alcoholic, aside from
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that's true. I think there were quite. I think there's quite a few. Quebec,
like
Quebec non-alcoholic ones. I think Ontario was further ahead. Is further ahead on hop waters. Like there's more. There's a lot of them here.
Right.
There's been a fair bit in the Quebec scene on the non-alcoholic front. It's actually been quite surprising. I found
at the set back when it started, like I don't know, 2020, 2021 type of thing. Because I might have just missed it and didn't see it. That's why I thought it was like just a touch beforehand. That's all I was referring to. Not that it's not there now.
Yeah. I mean, you might be you might be right, but if that was the case, like it definitely caught up quickly. I think because the non-alcoholic sections in most of the stores that I've seen in Quebec have been pretty well stocked from a number of different breweries.
Good. love to hear that. So then, that's great context because I actually hadn't really. I've seen individual stuff, but I obviously hadn't been to a store. Even when we went back last summer, I didn't get to go to a store or anything to see it. Where are you guys? So obviously you got the teas, which is super unique, and obviously that's a bit of a challenge figuring out where they fit in on the shelves. But like, have you looked into or any interest in like non-alcoholic beers? I know that's a whole ordeal and a whole other like thing, but is that something that you guys would consider?
Yeah, we're considering it. I find that there's a lot of breweries that launched a non-alcoholic beer, and it's a very small market. It's growing fast, but it's still very small compared to the total beer market. You need it's a little bit more complex because there's no alcohol. You have to make sure that the no alcohol stays true, and that's not always that's not easy to make sure. That and there's legal ramifications for that too. So like if we do it, we want to be really sure that we're doing it properly and take our time with it. And we just saw so many non-alcoholic beers come out. We don't really want to like get into that space right now. And like the big guys make also all started coming out with their own non-alcoholic beer. So I find like for the size of the market, the competition just got like exploded, which is like really cool for the customer. But for us, we wanted to kind of try to get this sparkling tea, get as far as we could with that because it's so different and there's nothing kind of like it on the market. Well, there's some like it, but it's kind of unique in the market right now. So we want to really focus on that.
That makes sense. And the fact that it's like you can sort of hang your hat on it. Like this is like we sort of did this is whatever challenges there are. I feel like once you sort of fit it, to me it just feels like you'd put it in non-alcoholic because it's made by a brewery. Like it's the same place I would put hop water. Like I would put it with the non-alcoholic stuff and all. You know what I mean? It's an artisanal product made by a brewery. It's got some whatever. You said it still has hops in it, but it's not marketed as a hop. Okay, so it's still got hops in it. So to me, that would be where it would go. But I guess that's part of the challenge. That makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought of it. That's a good point, Keegan. Then that the market isn't massive yet, but then I haven't seen much of the big guys. Maybe because I pay no attention to the big guys. But I see there's a bunch. Like I've noticed that other breweries are stocking, say, Bellwood's one because they went they fucking tripled down on that, right? So instead of buying, not creating their own, for the most part, they would stock that. Bars, restaurants, but other breweries are doing that too. Which I was like, fair enough. It seems like a whole ordeal to make
even
a good one.
Most specialist stores carry Bellwood's non-alcoholic beer.
In Quebec,
it just came in.
Because it's not subject to the same rules.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly. The specialist retailers they tend to be carrying mostly non-alcoholic beers.
Gotcha.
We represent, or we started helping out Dominion City with their city seltzer in Quebec.
Right.
Yeah, and it's
you just reminded me of something.
It's going pretty well. A lot of people ask for it, and I used to see it before COVID. I used to see it here and there, but it I think they lost their distributor or the guy disappeared or something. They were like, we don't know kind of what happened. So do you guys want to help us out? And we're like, yeah. So we're slowly helping them distribute in Quebec.
I fucking love City Seltzer.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. I love the branding. It's phenomenal.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, the branding is brilliant, and I think you reminded Craig and I about something at the exact same time here. And Craig, I hope you don't mind me jumping in the scoop.
You're better to talk on Ottawa things.
Yeah. So speaking of Dominion City, something pretty big that happened in the last little while that I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this is you guys started brewing their house New England IPA Sunsplit at your facility and packaged with their it's brewed by Origin but still called Dominion City Sunsplit. Do you want to tell us about how that came about?
Yeah, so we did a collab with them 2 years ago
for our anniversary 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, 2022. Mike? Was it?
Yep, it was the fourth
I think so,
anniversary.
yeah.
So yeah.
It's called Origin City. It was a West Coast IPA. It was like super good. We really hit it off with those guys. We went to see them in Ottawa. We loved hanging out with them. And then time went by, and I forget how it came up, but they were like asking us questions about how to distribute in Quebec. And we were like, well, there's 3 ways to do it. And then one of the ways was to kind of contract the beer by a Quebec brewery. So you bypass kind of like the SAQ, because a big challenge with New England IPAs is like, you go through the SAQ process, you might sit on the shelf or sit in their warehouse for
12 weeks,
months.
Right?
Yeah. So then by that time the beer is bad. And then there's other ways, but they're very expensive and very lengthy to get to complete. So they really liked the way we were thinking and our brewing methods and stuff like that. It really meshed. They came to brew with us the Sunsplit recipe. We got it on the second try, and we used their hops that they choose from Yakima. That made the biggest difference. So the first time we didn't we used our version of the same hop, but then it didn't hit the nail quite on the head. So then we actually just purchased the hops from them that they use in the Sunsplit, and that made the whole difference. So it's the hops that they actually choose every year in Yakima, and it made a big difference. And the beer, like 99.99% is there. Yeah,
that's dope. It's
awesome.
It's a wicked, like,
really cool.
Yeah, I love that. It's like, that was one of always the coolest thing, with like the I guess, Ottawa's the closest main market in Ontario to Quebec, and be able to, like, it's happened more. I think it's easier for Quebec breweries to get into Ontario. Like, you can get into the LCBO if you, probably not with a hazy IPA, but you could pick something, and then typically it's been, if you guys are doing it this way, it's so smart. It's such a great way. It's like, fostering those relationships, as cross-provincial relationships, whilst, letting the Ontario brewery expand in Quebec, and then it's still a revenue stream for you guys as well for any excess space that you may have now that you've got this big, beautiful facility. And then giving the drinkers of Quebec a little something like, oh yeah, I can get this on the shelf here. Now, some of them might discover Dominion for the first time and then head up their way. So it seems like a win-win for everybody. It's very cool.
It really feels like
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Sorry, Nathan, go ahead.
No, I was just I was just echoing. It does seem like a win-win.
Yeah, it is a win. Yeah, it's really awesome. They were getting a lot of calls from like people in Gatineau or restaurants and bars in Gatineau, and they were like, "Well, I can't ship it to you. You could come and get our cans if you want, and do that, but they're like, you can't sell the beer in your restaurant, So they were a little like, what do we do? And now, we're in a bunch of places in Gatineau, and it's like, Gatineau is very focused on local. So like a brewery from Montreal would have a very hard time selling in Gatineau. They're very protective of their local breweries. But Sunsplit kind of fits into that localness because it's like literally across the water, across the bridge. So they're like, oh yeah, we'll carry Sunsplit for sure. Like, we've been wanting this beer for a while, actually. So it's it's cool. It works out for Dominion, and it's helping us. Funnily enough, we actually brew this in our original facility. we don't brew it in because we keep it. We brew it in the smallest batch possible to keep it fresh. So we just brew it more often, but keep it very fresh. So we brew very small batches and kind of like let it run out in cans and do more kegs. So we do very small can runs, but more kegs because we sell it in both the tap room and the West Island location. A lot of people on the West Island actually like knew about this beer and like come to the West Island to have this.
It's on the same highway, more or less. So
yeah,
and the more anglophone leaning like West Island has more connection with Ottawa there, so it does.
Yeah,
interesting.
But we've been working to kind of Quebecify the Dominion branding a little bit, like. Makers of good beer has become bon bière, bien fait, like trying to make these things fit into fit their vibe, but into French.
That's dope. That's really cool. Do you? I love that so much, and it's just like two fantastic breweries of just great people doing it. It makes it even cooler to me. Do you guys have any aspirations of potentially doing the same thing, but vice versa, like getting them to brew one of your like Bontanik or another maybe flagship, and then pumping something out this way?
Possibly, yeah. We didn't really like start that conversation, but it could be something cool to look at for sure.
Yeah,
I think the Ontario market is a bit
it's different.
It's a bit more complex. Yeah, it's like not as open, so like you couldn't just kind of like create these relationships, but it will get more open
With the convenience store thing, yeah.
Yeah, so like with the LCBOs, like if they say no, you're like, well, okay, what do I do? Not much.
Well, you could do the specialty stores and the independents. It's just going to be like so much, like it's brick by brick. There's no like, you physically have to find all the good spots. Because I feel the reason I'm saying it, I can picture it being like if you picked a style, I don't really know what could work, something that really represents you guys well, and then had that in all the specialty stores that I think that have the beer nerds, even if for awareness, because say like people are going to the store that I go to called Durand here as a cafe, and their fridge is fire, and it's pretty crazy. And if they went and had a brewery from Quebec in there, because it's brewed from Dominion, because they get stuff from Dominion, so then they would stock it, and then people are like, what's this about? Even if it's the Origine Lager, and then people are like, oh, cool. And they'll hear about you. People often ask me out here, places to go in Montreal. I've got my list. I send people, copy paste, send it to everybody. So that could be just like a way of like introducing, but it would probably be those specialty stores where the value I think could be by getting, at the very least, even if you're not tapping into a massive market through the LCBO, you'd be hitting the beer nerds who travel for beer, who would be willing to come to Montreal, and then they know they've got two options to visit you guys when they get there, and add it to their list. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, no, doing it with Bontanik could for sure be a cool thing.
Yeah, just like
we haven't really talked about it, actually.
Well,
we're so focused on getting Sunsplit launched that we kind of like didn't discuss the Ontario market at all.
Yeah. Did they offer it, or did it not really come up?
No, it just didn't come up. I think like there's like an understanding that the Ontario market might be harder to start.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially coming from outside of Ontario. I think Ontario is very good at supporting their local breweries, but the stores, I think, is much harder. The LCBO,
it's true,
only has a limited amount of shelf space. I mean, every store does, but in Quebec, there's like 3,000 different locations you could sell your beer in. Where in Ontario, there's it's basically one or two stores that will decide if you get on the shelf, and then once on the shelf, you have like. Each brewery is limited to what, 2 or 3 products that they could sell, I think. Yeah.
Some have more, but I think it starts with one, and I think if that one does well, then they open it up for another, and then so on and so forth. Like Collective Arts has like 10 or whatever type shit. So it's like, I think it just all depends if you want to go that way, and then you need, if it's not moving, then that store can pull it. Or I think there's 2 ways. You can either go that it's on a list and then they can all just choose it, or that kind of what Mike, you were saying before, like they're physically going to go one by one to every LCBO and do it. So then it's that. Then there's the beer store, which I don't know a lot about how it works, and then there's the independents, which are few and far between, but would cater to. I almost just imagine Dominion would have their sales force, because the reason they're in our store, they weren't in our store, but they hired a new person in Hamilton specifically to cater to this whole region out here, and that person was known to the owner of the cafe. So then he was like, yeah, sweet. She approached him, and he was like, yep, sweet. So now Dominion's in there, which is great for me, because otherwise I never got it. Like, unless Nate got it for me and sent it, I would never really, even in Ontario, because there's nowhere for me to get it, because it's 5 hours away, So I mean, I imagine they would probably advise on what they would do. They probably have their whole sales team figured out and such, but
Yeah, they have a sales guy that does like the Ottawa region to Marco. I spent some time on the road with him in Gatineau, so he just drove over and he came to like talk to the bars about the brand and the beer and stuff. And it
Nice.
really, yeah, it helps when people meet the people behind the beer and the brand too.
For sure. Putting a face to the name, and if they like you, they're going to want to support you type shit.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very relationship focused, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's very cool. Nate.
Yeah.
So, fellas,
Next
as we wrap that topic up, I feel like it might be a good time for the next beer.
Yeah.
Could we have a little bathroom break? Is that all right? We could,
Oh, yeah, we can do a bathroom break. Fuck yeah.
It's
All
a
right.
good idea.
I was actually thinking
midway. Well, over midway.
Yeah, no worries. Perfect.
It
We're
seems
gonna
like a
pause.
natural wind down. You can edit that out.
Yeah.
We don't edit shit. We're going to keep that the fuck in. All right, we'll see you guys in a second. Oh, we are back. We are back.
And we are back.
And we're about to crack the next brewski,
Yo.
the Blanche du Sud-Ouest,
Yeah.
which is essentially, I had this before I left, so it's essentially like a hoppy white dry hopped, right?
Yeah. It was this, I think, came out again like 2019, Keegan,
Okay.
originally.
Yeah, it's an early
yeah.
brewery. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was
we've completely reworked the recipe. It's the same recipe, but reworked. Is
Okay.
I'm
Now,
aware. This is one of our anniversary beers. Like we're having 5 anniversary beers for our, well, actually 6 anniversary beers for our sixth anniversary. The 6th is the 5 we're releasing for distribution. The 6th being that smoothie I talked about.
gotcha.
It goes down smoothly. But yeah, this one originally this was a much hazier beer,
Yes, that's what I recall about it.
and now really it is very much like a dry hopped white beer.
Gotcha.
It's Amarillo, Citra, and Mosaic. And yeah, I'll let you guys dig in, but like those kind of hops really bring out the like orangey side you get in the white beer, like and a lot of aromatic juiciness as well.
I love that. I remember the correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't the original a collab with Labrosse?
Yes.
Okay.
A
Yes,
two-way
it was.
collab.
Oh, they did one too.
Well, there was
Yeah,
Blanche
they
de
did,
Sud-Ouest and Blanche de l'Ouest.
Oh, this is before. This is before
Yeah.
you had the Origin Brasse. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes
They
sense.
they still make Blanche de l'Ouest. I can't remember. They had it for a while, but I don't. They I don't think the new brewers there make it. But
Okay, so they might not.
we don't make it often. We just make it once every 2 years.
Well, that's fun to bringing it back for the anniversary. That's very cool. Yeah, smelling. It's definitely very different. Like, we had the Blanche before with the gin. I mean, I guess it's not a completely fair comparison, but like definitely getting that dry hop on the nose. It smells wicked.
Yeah, like a lot of tropical flavor coming, or not flavor, aroma coming out.
Absolutely. Get that in you, fellas.
Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, boys. Oh yeah. Oh wow. So, if you didn't tell me this was like a white or a blanche, like I would not have ever thought that. Like the dry hop is, to me, this tastes kind of like more like a dry hopped American pale ale. Does that make sense? Was this 5%? 5.4. So like, there's a bitterness in this as well. And I feel like my palate's a little sensitive to bitterness, and it over represents it in the early sips, and then it kind of calms down. But am I getting? Is that accurate? Is there a bit of punchy bitterness in this?
Some.
I'd say
I wouldn't
so.
say it's overly.
I would hazard a guess that what you're interpreting as bitterness is
Is it pithiness?
is kind of the. No, not even. But like, I'm wondering if kind of the estery flavors, like of the white, are coming off as bitter to you, because because I'm getting flavors that are very indicative of a white in here. Like I'm getting, I'm getting the peppery notes. I'm getting kind of. Like a bit of astringent pineapple, like coming from it. Like this reads very much as a white to me. So I'm wondering if those are coming off like more as bitterness to you.
I might be misinterpreting that just off the early sip. I feel like you got to have like 3-4 sips before I sort of like acclimates as well. Plus, I've had a lot of like softer beers tonight as well. Not that this is like crazy in your face, but maybe the dry hops giving it that little boost. But the nose is crazy.
Pretty hoppy. There's quite a bit of hop.
Yeah, but also
tonight, this is the hoppiest beer we're drinking. We try to keep it low, keep it chill.
Hey, I'm with that. Sometimes you gotta relax on the hops. But no, this is super interesting. It's cool that you guys have tweaked the recipe and switched it up, particularly for the anniversary, which is super cool. I feel like this is probably a good opportunity to chat about the anniversary. So the 6th anniversary is it this month in April or is it May?
April 27th we'll be celebrating. Okay, I think I believe officially we already turned 6, like this week or the week.
Yeah, on the 14th. Yeah, 14th was our first. But our first 2 years of opening, it was like very cold. So I remember our first anniversary, like our first ever anniversary. I had a toque and gloves and like a hoodie and a jacket. It was just the place was packed, but it was friggin' cold outside. So we're like every year we kind of push it another week, and it was on April 20th or like around that weekend, like for a long time. And then this year we push it another week to try to capture more of that sunshine and terrace and stuff. So
gotcha. Well, this year, what's it? Yeah, no, look, everyone's cheating this year. Fuck this weather's crazy. I wonder if it's gone that far ahead. Is there like the 27th? Is there a? I'm just checking my weather app to see if there's 14 days out. 20. Oh, you bitch, give me a fucking ad. 27th. Okay, well here it's like 14 degrees. So in Montreal, where the fuck is that in here? I'm just curious to see how that's going because if like obviously I don't think you'll need a some sort of crazy jacket and
you don't need a parka or anything. But
it's the same. It's 13 degrees, 13 and sunny.
Nice.
Well, I mean, this week it's been pretty nice, and we have now the city have installed volleyball courts opposite the brewery, and people have been out playing volleyball already. So
honestly,
crazy spring this year.
Yeah, it kind of is everywhere. But look, there is nothing like the people of Quebec are, in the best way possible, insane. Like I felt like we used to live right next to Montreal, and there would be people sunbathing on a towel, with like shorts and a tank top, and there'll be a pile of snow like 2 meters away. It's so crazy. And people didn't give a fuck. As soon as it's like 5 degrees, people are busting out shorts and t-shirts and stuff, and
they're so excited. Yeah,
I respect it. Are you from Quebec, Keegan?
I was born in Toronto, but I moved to Montreal when I was 2. So
okay, so you're basically so basically it's in none of our blood then. The Quebec, like they're a special breed. They have sort of this like tolerance for the cold and this sort of excitement. That type of thing, and people playing volleyball outside, like you said, like now in April is completely unheard of, I would imagine. So it's it's pretty cool and it's pretty encouraging, and that's great. Like 13 degrees. Maybe it's not shorts and t-shirt, but light sweater, you're good to go.
The Sud-Ouest actually pushed back they used to be on April 14th that the terrace could open officially, and they pushed it back to the 1st this year because they're like, it's getting warmer.
Let it rip. That's awesome. Excuse me. That's great. Yeah, it must be.
On the terrace. There's people on the terrace right now. It's just, it's pretty cool to see.
That's very sick, man. I love that. Once again, I feel like that's a rule. I haven't really seen that as much here. I think they're starting to come out, but like, it's not as aggressive. I've seen some crazy people when it's really like barely warm and they're wearing shorts and t-shirt and stuff like that, but it's not to the same volume as Quebec. I really feel like people do not give a fuck, and I love it. For the anniversary, so you said you have 6 beers?
Six beers, yeah.
Do you want to break down? So obviously we have this one, which is the sort of reimagining.
We have the next one we're going to be drinking, which is the Ice Thé de Montreal, Montreal Ice Tea, which we'll talk about shortly. We also have Origin Pilsner, which is a classic kind of German pils there. We have Origin Pale Ale. Again, going a little, keeping things basics. Like we're actually, a lot of the themes of this anniversary really is going back to like classic styles or original recipes and reworking them. Like we're constantly evolving. It's been 6 years. We've got all these recipes under our belt, but we're not just letting them be one and done. So kind of bring back some stuff that was popular, rework recipes with things we've learned from working with new breweries. And the Origin Pale Ale is a Quebec Pale Ale, so it's in the kind of the idea of the Origin Lager, staying within that like idea.
Shorty cans.
The hop Riel, which is a native Canadian hop. It's a cross between a plant from Alberta and Quebec, which is why it's named after Louis Riel, who's kind of Quebecois, Franco-Albertan. And it's really, really interesting. Like we put it in an old school pale ale, like a malty, like classic kind of. It was Sierra Nevada inspired, the recipe.
Gotcha.
But like going back, like the brewers back when they were brewing these original beers were looking at local hops, like American hops for the first time. It's in England. All these classic pale ales are English pale ales, but brewed with American hops, right? So we kind of did that, but looked at Quebec hops. And Riel is this really unique one. Like it's sadly we didn't have it ready for you guys, but it has these really crazy notes of like vanilla and pear and a bit of ginger in it. Like
Interesting.
the vanilla thing's really interesting because like you've got it's like a perceived little sweetness without being sweet. That ties really well with like the traditional bitterness of the like we have some Quebec Centennial I think in the background that bitters it out, but it's that really interesting interplay between those. And then we also have, I actually have it because we got it labeled today. We'll be releasing
Bust that out.
a collab with Foam Brewers down in Burlington. There.
Hell yeah.
It's these Lager du Vermont, which are very small quantities of this we've created and got the labels finally on because our label machine decided to break the week before our anniversary.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our chiller also broke, but nobody sees that one.
So we've got the old one out that we used to have, the old labeler. Howard there is doing an absolute machine of a job, just single-handedly labeling everything.
Hey, it fits with the theme, like back to the old days where we had this shitty equipment.
We'll tell him that tomorrow. He'll be really happy to know he's on the aesthetic. So Foam came up to brew a beer with us. It was a few weeks ago. I
it's about a month ago. Yeah, they came up.
Yeah,
those guys were honestly. We work with Josh and Rob Grimm.
Yeah, Rob's the man.
Phenomenal people. Honestly, like it was a breath of fresh air to work with those guys. They're superb people. So much knowledge too.
Yeah.
And we went to go brew at their facility 2 weeks ago in their fooder. So that will be coming out in 3 months ish.
Nice.
And we're going back down in June to put some extra fruits in there, and then hopefully it'll be available around their Funk on the Water
good timing
festival. So our whole team will go down and participate in the festival too, which will be very fun.
That's awesome, man.
But it was a real pleasure to meet those guys and work with them.
Yeah, good cats. That's a great look as well, and love seeing Vermont folks collab with Canadian folks and Quebec folks specifically because it's right there. And I imagine Quebec contribute. Yeah, it was like from my place in Montreal, it was like 2 hours door to door from leaving home to arriving in Burlington. It was crazy. It was the best. And I imagine the Quebec beer nerds are probably like a significant % of their GDP. Like of the state.
I think they were, and then COVID happened, right?
COVID fucked it up, bro. Yeah, there were some people, I swear to God, pre-COVID, you're right, though. I saw certain people that you guys probably know. I don't know them very well personally, but just people I saw they were at every weekend. It felt like they went down. They went to Foam, they went to Burlington Beer Co. Like they got all the new releases, were at all the events. And it was like how, like they must spend every single available disposable piece of their income on just going down there and buy. It's just like because it's not cheap and you're losing 30%, and they're doing it from what looked like every weekend. Like it's pretty wild. People were pretty wild. So I guess that's slowed down a bit now. Also, I think that Canadian beer got, like, just something happened over COVID. Like, everything got so much better. Here. I don't know what the fuck happened. I don't have very minimal FOMO anymore as far as American stuff. Like, I could be here and I don't feel like, I'm missing out. These guys have got this. There's some great stuff, obviously, like world-class shit there, but don't front on what we're doing this side of the border, you know?
My theory is that COVID probably accelerated it, right? Like, people couldn't get hold of it anymore. They were looking and going down these places to get stuff that they wanted that they couldn't get into Quebec, and then you literally couldn't get it anymore. So it really makes it like the market was there because the people that weren't going to get it were looking for it, and then the brewers that couldn't go there and drink it were brewing it back here. Like, that's got to be at least part of it, at least.
I agree. That's a great point. Yeah, and they must have just, whatever they've done, maybe they have more time because, you know, beforehand kind of everyone's just busy, and kind of what you were saying off air, Mike, that you were, you know, chatting a lot more with your folks in England. Maybe the brewers here had just more time to think. And, you know, because the pubs weren't open, the actual tap room wasn't open. So they're like, all right, well, fuck, okay, maybe I could try this and then get some information. Maybe people are talking more and, sharing more knowledge because beforehand they're all too busy to share knowledge. So maybe that was all kind of playing a part of it. But either way, really cool look, I think, for you guys to work with like a legendary, highly regarded brewery like Foam as well. And it's even cooler that you're going to have now a product in the States available with your name on it, which is sick.
Absolutely
very
sick.
Cool.
It's a dream for sure.
So dope. Very, very happy for you guys.
I don't know, Keegan, if we can mention who's coming up in a few weeks' time as well. Like,
this will come out in 2 weeks from the recording date. So if you did want to do it, you've got, you know, won't come out for another 2 weeks. So by that time, you might have been able to talk about it anyway.
Burlington Beer is coming up in
next week.
May 1st.
No way.
Fuck yes. Is it Joe? Is Joe coming up?
He said he's coming up. Yeah.
He's the man.
Well, the brewer and Justin are coming up, and then Joe's trying to come up too.
Okay.
So it'll be a happy family. Yeah.
That's dope. I only met him last summer, and he's such a lovely guy. So cool. And that
lovely people. Yeah.
I don't even know. Have they even collabed with a Canadian brewery? I don't know if they have. I think you guys might be the first.
I can't think of anyone that they would have.
Same. Dude, that's awesome. That's very cool. I think they'd be turning 10 this year. I think they turned 9 when I was there last year, so this would be their 10th anniversary too. So that's
2014.
Cool.
He said he opened. Yeah, so it must be, or maybe So it's 10.
They were 9. I think when I went, it was August last year, and I think they were either just celebrated or about to do their 9th anniversary. So that means this year'd be 10. So that's very sick. That's huge, man. So you guys really like make some big moves down there. I love that shit.
The team had a very productive trip down to Vermont while I was back in the UK.
Well, you fucked up, Mike. You messed up.
Yeah, I know.
Big time.
No, I think like we just they're breweries we hold in high regard. Obviously, they're legends, and we just wanted to get out of Quebec a little bit, go have some fun with our team, do like a team building thing in Vermont. And when we got there, I reached out to them ahead of time. I think I even asked you for like their emails.
I remember that.
Yeah. Nice. You put me in contact with Rob actually, and Rob, he actually answered the email. And I was like, oh shit, okay. So he's like, yeah, come on down. We'll talk. And like, they tasted our beers and they were like, man, you guys make some good shit. And we're like, well, you guys make some amazing shit. And they treated us so well. Like, honestly, like the hospitality was unbelievable. And then I wrote them back after. I'm like, guys, can we like make it up to you? I want you guys to come see us. Like, can we make a beer together? And like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Like, they were super happy. And I'm like, shit, this is really awesome. I mean, this is like why we started a brewery, So it was cool.
That's beautiful, man. That makes me very, very happy. I forgot about that. That makes me extra happy. That's so cool, man. I'm really happy for you guys. I think it's extra cool that you're doing it for your 6th anniversary too. It's like a cool sort of, little additional thing that's, not very common. The only other brewery I think they've collabed with that I'm aware of is Sankiam. And there might be somebody else, but maybe Meso, maybe, but I don't know for sure.
I think Masarum did it for their festival,
Funk on the Water,
the
whatever.
Ceremony festival. Yeah, I think they had something.
That
there.
sounds right. That sounds right.
But that aside, like, I guess the point still remains that it's not very common at all. And
Yeah,
I
we're
imagine
we're talking about a small handful here.
oh yeah, they'd be very selective, I would imagine too. So I think that speaks volumes to what you guys are doing. That's congrats, boys. That's fucking awesome, man. And I love that. Was that all of the beer? That was the 6 beers that we covered?
Yeah, so the Burlington one won't be for the anniversary. It's
Of course, that'd be for fun.
happening in the next short while.
Hell yeah.
And but we'll have the Gose Down.
The smoothie.
Yeah.
That's the
But it's only on draft.
Draft. That's fun. That's great. That's sick. Okay, so and then that's going down on April 27th. So by the time this episode comes out, it'll be the probably the week after that. If people do want to get them, they can go to the breweries, either one, and they'll be able to see whatever's left, potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a handful, 24 or so stores that will be getting the foam collab, and then a lot of other them because we have very small quantities of that, and then the others will be Quebec wide. Actually, the first ones went out the door today, so.
Amazing.
They're starting to be distributed across Quebec. The rest of them.
Brilliant. That was my next question. Was just to see if
we don't distribute smoothies. We don't want we don't want any explosions.
It's funny. I feel like smoothies kind of lost that rep. That was the initial rep because they were, and then I feel like I don't know what's going on. I feel like actually,
when's the last time you heard about that?
Yeah, I feel like
it doesn't happen anymore. They figured it out.
I think they figured it out, but I also think that a lot of them don't distribute, which is part of figuring it out.
Maybe that's it.
If you don't pasteurize, you don't distribute.
But I think that's exactly it. Maybe they pasteurize and distribute, or they're just like, nope, come to the even Third Moon. I don't know if they pasteurize, but they won't ship it even because here you can ship stuff, so they won't. Okay. They won't even
illegal
ship.
To get bombs. So.
Put them. Wait. Have that. Do I have it?
Man, that smoothie experiment. Nice.
Yeah, the smoothie experiment. Yeah, it's probably better to have. I think it's
insanity.
Right? Fuck. I think it's probably a good thing as well to have a little bit of a carrot for people to come out to the brewery itself and to try something special on tap that they know can't be purchased anywhere else. I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I'm just really looking forward to having it with brunch at the restaurant.
Oh,
there you go.
It's the perfect brunch beer.
Yeah. Nice
little, mind you,
that
would be a perfect brunch beer. Mind you, this Gose Down Easy would also be a really solid brunch beer too.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's light enough. It's super punchy.
I don't know what we're making. What are we making the mimosas with at the moment, Keegan? Yeah.
Our Montreal State of Mind.
Yeah.
It's a New England IPA.
I've had that. Yeah, that's the same one, right? That was from a few years back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one we've been
staples.
taking. The newest recipe that we've tried out for it is the best. Probably, I think it's our best IPA we've brewed so far. So.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we've been learning a lot. All these collabs that we've been doing over the years, all these big names. We got learning from Vermont, from Ontario. We've collabed with Moon, Dominion, then Foam and Burlington. Everything's going into these improvements, but we're not necessarily pumping out all these new IPAs that exist for 1 minute. It's putting this techniques back into our IPAs that are out there every day.
That's sick. Yeah, I love that. That's kind of the point, I guess, right? Of the collabs is that knowledge sharing and then actually putting it into practice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fuck yeah. That's fire. The other thing we wanted to touch on tonight that I want to make sure we squeeze in was the general Quebec, I know it's a bit of a pivot here, but the general Quebec tax stuff and what that's looking like. I know we said at the beginning that's what, Keegan and I were chatting about that, and that's kind of what sparked, hey, let's get you guys back on again. So the quick version is that, here in Ontario, one of the big problems is the volume of tax for, I don't know all the specifics, and Nate, you might remember, but I always forget the numbers. But I know it's something to do, say, for example, on a can, the Alberta, the federal tax got dropped, the CCBA worked on that and got the federal tax no, not dropped, they got it frozen. so that they're not going to do the hikes, which is great. But it's the provincial tax that are the real problem. So, for example, in Alberta, it's 10 cents per can, for example, and then here it's $1.20. So times that by how many cans that breweries are selling, and then that's a sizable tax bill, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So one of the things they're really fighting for here, the OCB, which is the Ontario equivalent to the AMBQ, are really fighting for that. So it's been a bit of a topic of conversation. You know, some people are like, yeah, we need it to survive, because if they cut that and in all of the other hardships that are put on, as kind of you guys were talking about, on alcohol companies, you know, whether it's the thing where it's like the fermenters have to be fucking 12 feet away from a wall. Shut up, like, relax. It's so ridiculous. And then you've got all, you know, you can't ship in Quebec, but then you got 1 million stores, and here you can ship, but you can't sell it. It's only 400 grocery. You know, all these different stupid, arbitrary, century-old rules for no particular reason. So the cutting this tax down and keeping it maybe a little more uniform across the country provincially would make a large difference. So we've talked at length on the pod about Ontario, and I'd love to just hear you don't have to even go too crazy. I'm down to go as deep into this as you guys like, but what's that landscape looking like in Quebec?
Well, the tax rate's been pretty high for like ever.
Okay.
The excise tax in Quebec. I mean, it's about 21 cents a liter for even the very small breweries.
Okay.
So it's like anything you sell out of your tap room or in cans or in distribution, it's 21 cents a liter. So it's about, I guess, 10 cents a can, which it's pretty high for a small brewery to cover on top of all the other taxes. And then you have your federal excise taxes too, which which goes up in brackets and stuff like that. The Quebec tax does jump a bracket once you're like really big, but you don't see it too much until you hit like 5,000 hectoliters, I think is the next bracket, which is a sizable brewery in Quebec. But yeah, I mean, like Quebec customer or people that purchase beer are also taxed. Like there's a sales tax that's higher than Ontario. Our income tax rate is
higher.
I don't know, much higher, but quite a bit higher. So it really affects people's like discrepancy to pay for like these luxury items, which is, you know, beer essentially. Craft beer anyway. Yeah. So I'm not like exactly familiar with I think you had a graph out when you posted it. And from that graph, it seemed like I think the lowest 1,000 hectoliters and under in Ontario have a pretty significant tax break, or almost don't pay anything on excise. So in Quebec, we don't have that break. It's like as soon as you produce 1 hectoliter, you're fully taxed. So it's tough for this, and there's a lot for the size of our population. There's, I think, more breweries in Quebec per capita. So there's a lot of breweries, and there's a lot of smaller breweries too. Like I think it's 95% of breweries are under 1,000 hectoliters. So it's a lot.
Okay.
It's a big burden, I think, on producers in Quebec, this excise tax rate. Yeah.
Is it a big topic of conversation there? Like, is it something that people are like quite concerned about? In, you know, what we say this all the time here, like in this economy right now, when you know every sort of situation is unique or whatever, but is it something that people are bringing up a lot and are quite concerned about?
I don't think they're concerned about, because everybody's kind of paying the same rate. So like everybody's on an equal playing field, I guess, when it comes to that. What people are kind of, you know, not happy about is, I guess, the price that it ends up being on the shelf. That especially at this time,
that's true.
It affects the customer. So the customer is really holding back now on his purchases of like craft beer, and a lot of smaller producers, I think, are, and I'm including myself in this. It's like we're suffering a bit more than the bigger producers because we can't compete on price. So as soon as you get over like the $5 mark on your can, like a lot of people start dropping you, or like they're switching to the lower priced items out there. So which is totally understandable.
Right. Question on that. Go on, Nate, you go
sorry.
first.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to go on the pricing. Were you going to go a different thing?
No, I was going to talk on pricing too. So
all I was going to say was I didn't think this is an interesting thing about I'm glad you brought that up. I totally forgot about that. I imagine all of us. I don't really look. If I want a beer, I'm just going to buy it for the most part. Unless it's like a big bottle or something special. Like I basically don't give a fuck what it costs. If I want it, I want it, right? And I'm willing to pay that as a craft beer consumer. And fortunately for me, I know most of the time the owners, and I know that, hey, this money's going to go to support their family and what they're doing, and I want them to keep doing it. And if that's what it costs, I don't think they're bleeding anyone. I don't see these guys driving around in Lambos. They're fucking, barely making ends meet for the most part. So I don't really look about price. Now, what's come up a lot, the LCBO was a bit, this has come up with the LCBO breweries, the breweries who have a strong presence in the LCBO. So that would probably be the equivalent there of just breweries that distribute, because we touched on earlier, there are some breweries that aren't really distributing. The people would, like, some of the people have had on the breweries from Ontario, Nate, you can tell me if I'm missing some parts here. Like, there was, they were very conscious of they know all of the competitors in the style field. So, like, say if it's a Pilsner or something like that, Steam Whistle's like $3.65. The real cheap, shitty, like, what's the one, the old style Pilsner, the Molson's like $2.35. Bellwood's Pilsner is $4.50, which is crazy for a Pilsner. Nothing's even close. Like, nothing's even over $4. The only other one is Burdock. So, like, Jeff from Town Brewery in Whitby, just outside of Toronto, was saying that, say if he has IPA, and he will put one IPA at like $4.25 and another one at $3.95. Is like the sales graphs on the one that as soon as you hit that $4 are just so much lower than the one that's under $4. So you mentioned
he's selling way more under $4.
Yeah, the one under $4 is selling like leagues more, and I don't. This I guess the sort of, I guess one just is not really a specific question, just to speak on the pricing more, but he was saying that, like, I think the LCBO consumer is generally speaking less discerning than maybe cats who are going to a specialty store knowing what they want, and you're like, I want this brewery, I'm going to get their new one because I follow them on Instagram and I saw what's going on, and they're going to cop it. And if it costs $7, $8, $9, they're like, whatever, bro, like, I want this is what's happening. Whereas like an LCBO consumer who's maybe a little less loyal to a brewery, or just like a casual buyer and likes trying different stuff, is less inclined to buy if it starts to hit over $4. So I'd be curious what
which I think makes sense, because it's like the kind of person going there for, like, you described the kind of person who goes to the specialty stores like here in Ontario, whereas in the LCBO, for the most part, like people are browsing and deciding what they feel like trying, and someone who's doing that is more likely to notice the price when they're trying to decide between one or the other.
There you go.
And sorry, I'm going to cut you off. You may have been leading into a question for them there.
No question. I just wanted to. No, that's fine. I wanted to just sort of like hear more about pricing in Quebec, and you mentioned that $5 mark, and that's what I find interesting. You're like, oh, that might be, you know what I'm saying? Because LCBO are different. You're talking specialty beer store in Quebec, right?
I was going to say, I can maybe speak to that just from what I see from, like, when I'm out on the road there. Like, our pricing, I think we're pretty middle of the range. Like, like we've been pretty smack down the middle. But we're in specialist, but we're in grocery store. And one thing I could really think, like, you talk about lagers there, if we had a lager that was over $5 in the specialty store, that can kind of be on the cheaper side these days.
Really?
But when you're sitting in a grocery store and you're next to a 4-pack of imported Bitburger or something like that, which is like a 4-pack for $10 or $12, like, who's going to buy the $5 Quebec lager? It's very much like it's two different worlds in terms of pricing. The people who still have the luxury or the desire to still purchase in specialty stores will, like you, like pricing, and you can see it even just on the layouts in the stores. In the specialty stores in Quebec, pricing is minimal. Like, it's like it's a tiny little thing written maybe on the top of the can. It's like a little label gun thing. Often in some places it'll include tax and consigne. In some places it'll just be pre-tax, pre-consigne. Like there's no consistency there. But in the stores, it's like it's big. The pricing, whatever is red and like is on special that week, it's probably empty. Like if it goes under $4, like it's definitely empty. Like it is, and like it's two different worlds, really. And even the specialty stores, like in the last year or two, they've been looking for options to sell at a discount. And I think in some ways, I think this is why small cans are coming in more and more in Quebec, because they're offering the same beer but at a price point that is under $5. So like even just as a craft beer nerd, I've noticed my like 4-pack of the week has often been featuring 1 or 2 small cans, and it's the same price for me. So I don't know, so I'm still trying the same amount of beers or whatever, but the actual like there's almost a little shrinkflation going on there in some ways. Like you got
when
like,
you say it's gone.
Well, I'm just saying because like you're looking, some people are looking at the price. I think in the specialty stores though, people are looking more. What I've heard is everyone's just looking at freshness, like what is the most recent beer, what is the freshest beer, and like you say, for yourself, like cost doesn't necessarily matter for these people who are exclusively shopping in these places, but the amount of people that are exclusively shopping in specialty stores is reducing in some ways. Like I've heard from specialty stores when they were returning cans back before the whole change in November, that they were getting more and more macro cans in the bags that were brought to them to exchange against the refund recycling thing, because people were having their weekday beers were macro and their weekend beers were big double IPAs.
Interesting. So when you're saying they want them at a discount, do you mean they're wanting wholesale deals from the craft brewery suppliers?
Sorry,
you said the stores are wanting to offer discounts. So are they saying they want to purchase from you at a discount, or they want, so they want you to do them deals now? They're trying to, even though shit's rough, they're like, come on, cut me a break type shit.
They want to
usually pass it on to the customers. Some decide not to, but usually they pass it on to the consumer,
which makes them move faster.
Exactly.
So are they doing it because they know that the consumer wants something at a lower rate? So they're like, I'm offering you the opportunity to be the one that they're going to choose because most people are price conscious?
If they keep it flicking around every different brands, they like a lot of the stores are almost they're streamlining. Like the craft beer sections are shrinking across the province in all the grocery stores. Like all of them, they exploded in 2020, 2021, 22-ish. And then they've like, everyone's reassessing how much floor space beer takes up in the grocery stores. And that means that they want to have a select amount of products that they can flick on and off discount here and there.
Are the discounts coming from specialty stores or from grocery? Mostly.
So that's all grocery. Specialty stores, I've seen a few where they do want some deals for volume, or if they want to have it like a cheaper beer to push here, but it's very rare that like discounts tend to come after the fact. They're like if something's not moving.
Right, as opposed to asking it for you up front and then selling it on special from the rip. Gotcha.
Because they don't. Again, the purchasing power is different in these two different places, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the volume and such. Interesting about the macro more coming back. I always sort of thought like, because there's basically under no circumstance would that happen with me personally. Like it's not, and I imagine maybe you guys, I'm not going to buy. I couldn't even imagine a macro beer aside from maybe Guinness or Heineken that I could stomach at any sort of volume, but I'd rather buy less. If my budget shrank, I'd rather buy less craft than more of that. But that's really interesting anecdotes then. So I did actually forget before when I asked this that Quebec is more. I did notice Quebec beer is more expensive. You're right, definitely more than here.
I was gonna say the perfectly weird position right there, like Sunsplit IPA in the LCBO. I just looked it up, is $5.10. We sell it as a suggested rate of $6.29 in Quebec. Because that's what it takes with the margins and the cost
and everything.
There's $1.10 difference just there.
I wonder, funnily enough, the store I go to gets Sunsplit as well, and I find that's probably the only LCBO. Nate and I were talking about this today, funnily enough, that they're the only... They don't. If it's in the LCBO, they won't stock it because what's the point, right? They probably can't beat the price. I bet you it's probably $7 or $8 by the time, because I don't think Ontario can do a wholesale deal or something. I don't know what That's right. So they would have to sell it at retail to the store, and the store adds on $1 to $2, which personally, I don't mind paying that as a premium to not have to pay shipping, because it's a different we have different problems. In Montreal for 10 years, I had one type of problem, not being able to get shit from afar or fresh or whatever it is. And then here, the other problem is more of a price thing. So I'm either forced to buy 4-packs and pay shipping, or I pay a premium, which I consider to be relatively small, all things considered, to buy one of and get it super fresh that week that I know
paying
just...
full trip shipping for a 4-pack, essentially.
Yeah, essentially.
You get one can, you get to try it, but you don't have to buy a 4-pack and you don't have to do shipping.
Exactly. So the shipping's at least $10 if you're lucky. Most places are 15 to 20 because they're still taking a loss. They're eating that, which we've heard directly from breweries, that they most of the time they're eating at least something on shipping because they got to keep it reasonable. Because as soon as you do it and you pick your whole shit and you go and it's like $25 shipping, you're going to be like, fuck that. Like you're going to shut it down.
Done that.
Many times. Yeah.
Even $10 shipping, I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah, I mean, it depends where it is. Say like if Bellwoods are a larger volume brewery, for example, because this is maybe what the difference is. If it's a smaller brewery like Third Moon or Badlands, they won't be able to do that. But Bellwoods now have gone. Now they're like 12 years. They're like kind of moved in from that like hype brewery to OG status, and they're very big on, like you guys were saying, they got the NAs everywhere. They're big on LCBO and restaurants and stuff like that. So they've almost changed their strategy from being that hype lineup brewery to kind of like high quality shit available everywhere. And they have a flat rate, probably because of volume, of like $10 anywhere in the province. Yeah. And if I'm like, okay,
and the threshold for free shipping is only $100, which is pretty low.
I forgot about that. That's a great point. And because obviously, if you're buying a couple barrel aged beers, and you can buy everything singles on their store as well. They don't force 4-packs. So I'm looking at it from, okay, I'm about an hour away from Toronto, driving there, which is a fucking nightmare, and then getting back. So that's 2 hours minimum round trip plus gas. And the hassle is worth $10 to me. So I'm like, if I don't need $100 worth of stuff, I always try and get their NA stuff to fill up the gaps if whatever I want. But then that works out to be okay. So I guess Quebec, because of that strong distro system, things are just more expensive, because of what you're explaining, Keegan, with all the taxes and such. But there is that more convenience that if a brewery is sort of going hard on distro, that it shouldn't be too difficult wherever you live, at least in the city. Or usually there's a fire store, like Sherbrooke has the Au Vent du Nord and stuff like that, and like great places that get beer from everywhere else in the province fresh and quick, so that I know that I don't have to drive hella far. It's relatively accessible there, almost wherever you are, which was a big bonus. And then you're not, once again, still not forced to go to the brewery. Some breweries force 4-packs and all that type of stuff. So there's like different problems, different solutions.
So saying there's no wholesale deals offered in Ontario, it'll be interesting to see how long that lasts as soon as it goes to grocery.
That's such a good point.
I can see some of the big boys wanting to do that as soon as possible, and then everyone else will be able to do it.
Yeah, so maybe the big boys already do it, but actually no, maybe they got different, because maybe it's the same. You're talking about as soon as you hit a threshold, there's different rules. So I think there is a production threshold. There's even a weird threshold, and I was going to bring this up to you guys. Who was it? Fucking Collective Arts. They contracted one of their major flagship brands. You heard this? Yeah.
They were getting sued by the provincial government or something for.
They didn't get sued. They didn't get sued. They just got a $500,000 tax bill because they were contracting out of Steam Whistle, and Steam Whistle is a much larger volume brewery who are taxed at a higher rate. So even if they brew some beers for you or one beer for you one time, you automatically get pushed up to their tax rate as a whole, even if your brewery is significant. So if you guys went and contracted out of Steam Whistle, you would be charged as if you're like they're probably the closest thing to the one step below a macro as far as the volume. I would imagine based on I've been there. It's pretty fucking big.
Usually the producing brewery is the one that's responsible for that tax, not the contracting brewery. So like with the Sunsplit beer, like we pay the excise tax on our volume for Sunsplit beer, and then it's at whatever rate it's at. But like there's a lot of steps once you go over a certain amount of hectoliters, but for the federal excise tax, but I'm assuming it would be the same in Ontario, where it's Steam Whistle that's responsible for paying the tax, since he's
doing it on behalf.
Yeah,
I think probably the distinction there is that, like, you guys are still selling this as even though it's kind of like a partnership sort of thing, it's still being distributed out of your door as a Quatre Origines beer, whereas the Collective Arts one was being produced at Steam Whistle, was being sold as a Collective Arts beer, not as a Steam Whistle beer. So I think that that distinguishes it as a contract, as opposed to opposed to just kind of like a partnership sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good point. I didn't think of that. That might be the reason, but it's like it's all just so complicated unnecessarily. Like, yeah,
the bureaucracy is super heavy with alcohol. It's really, I mean, it's a dangerous substance, so it needs to be, regulated, obviously. Yeah. But like, there's a lot of it shouldn't be to a point where it's too difficult to understand and people make mistakes. There's a funny trend on TikTok right now. It's talking about, like, because it's tax season, and like there's one person asking the government, like, oh, so how much tax do I need to pay?
I've seen it, yeah. Guess.
You know that one? You know what I'm talking about? The government's like, oh, I don't know. You have to figure it out. They're like, well, no, you know how much tax I need to pay. And the government's like, yeah, I know, but you need to do the calculation by yourself. And then it's like, well, what if I make a mistake? Like, well, you go straight to prison.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so crazy. It's the whole system when you really start to, I don't know, now I'm a homeowner and like the things with the business are going better. The more tax and stuff I'm paying, the more I'm like, so what's this? And I've been dealing with the healthcare system. I'm like, so why can't I get an appointment anywhere? And why does the roads have potholes like it's Montreal out here? And why is nothing working?
I haven't seen my doctor in 2 years. It's absolutely nuts.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like everything, it's just all like when you really think about what you're getting, like you're just like, what the fuck is going on, bro? Like, I would rather just pay for it as I need it, as opposed to being extorted all this insane amount of tax for what used to be great. All Canadians are telling me shit used to be awesome. And then, I don't know, knew a Canadian here, the same as Mike, and I'm like, I hadn't really experienced it. Now I'm like, this sucks. Australia was way better, and maybe Australia sucks now too. And England, I always heard was
for you. That's fine.
Tiffany's cousin is from the UK. He works for us.
I was like, oh shit.
Yes, I was telling him, bro, you have to do your taxes. What are you talking about? You don't have to submit your taxes. I'm like, are you fucking? Because Australia's the same as here. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, you just work and then you get money back. And you don't have to do anything. I'm like, and I didn't believe him. I thought he was young and crazy. And I checked and I was like, oh.
So wait, in the UK,
you don't do a tax return.
It just gets taken off your paycheck.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It's so much better.
The smartest thing.
It's more complicated if you're like self-employed and have different benefits to claim, but you just claim those. That's tax season is just claiming different bits and pieces, but your income tax is already taken off.
It's so much smarter, and here they do it, and then they'll
industry that would disappear in Canada.
You're right, and that's why they'll never change it. You're so right. Like there's so much.
Another thing with it too is that, like, particularly in North America, like in Canada and the US, it's a whole thing that companies that do tax filing software like TurboTax and whatnot lobby the government hard to make it necessary for their services to exist, which is one of the reasons that that it ends up staying like this.
That's a good point. That's such a good point.
I think this episode's got to be called Tax Season, right?
Let me write that down. That's
Guys,
fucking crazy.
Guys, let's crack another fucking beer.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's bring her home.
I'll be back.
Spill the
Alrighty.
tea.
Oh, spill the tea. Oh, Mike, I'm gonna put that one on here. Maybe even spill the tea, like in French.
All right,
Spill the tea.
I found the perfect company to work for because they like dad jokes before we all became dads. So.
You know what? I do remember the first episode of Mike D apostrophe was obsessed with puns, and
there was a meme going around the other day, which was dad finds perfect job working for a brewery coming up with beer names, and I was like, I identify 100% with that.
like, that is specifically talking to me.
Yeah,
I love that. Oh, dad jokes, Michael. Well, you're fitting in perfectly. Now this bad boy.
Oh yeah, this is Montreal Ice Thé de Montreal. A bit of franglais in there for you guys. This was again. We actually launched this originally for anniversary last year.
Okay.
Under the name of Ice Thé SB, like ESB but B.
I like that.
But we listened to our feedback, and the feedback we got, like it was a great beer. A lot of people liked it. I particularly liked it.
My wife actually cracked it open. She took it from the fridge.
Oh.
I was like, "Where did it go?" And she was like sitting on the watching TV. I'm like, "Fuck!"
Like, I needed that. Did you give me half of it?
And Mike, was that last one was it an ESB?
The last one was the base was an ESB originally.
Oh, okay.
And we got kind of some of the feedback was that it was more on in the terms of the iced tea spectrum.
Uh-huh.
You know, I learned recently that there's a difference between iced tea with a D and iced tea without the D.
What's the difference?
Well, iced tea is like tea you brew and put over ice, and then iced tea is like the sugary stuff like brisk, all that, like, you know, that kind of iced tea. Our first one was more like a tea that people say is more like the traditional ice, like tea flavor was there, the bitterness, the astringency of the tea was there a bit more, and people were expecting a bit more of a canned iced tea, like
Different
like other brands are available, but I'm thinking brisk is the main one, like with a bit of lemon and a bit of sweetness. So we upped the sweetness here.
Okay.
It's a more now a pale ale kind of base with a bit more caramelization of the malts there. There's a touch of lactose in there, but the same tea flavor. It's English breakfast tea and orange pico, as well as there's lemon in there for that little dash of citrus.
Okay. And this is not out yet because this is for the anniversary, right?
This is the anniversary, yeah.
Okay, that's why it's not on the
top. Officially went live today. So.
Okay.
It's been getting better too as it's getting a week old now.
Okay.
It's been getting better. Like I tasted it right off the line. It was different. Now it's kind of mellowed out a bit more, which is nice.
Okay. It's definitely smelling like the nose is very much ESB vibes.
No, it's still English style at the base, and then there's English tea in there, so it's like But we cut out the bitterness of the bitter, if that makes sense. Like, and really up the malt caramel side, that like, because an iced tea is basically sugar, tea, and lemon. Like it's
oh man,
so
that is so nice.
Malt, kind of the sugar side, the lemon we've got there, and really make the tea shine as well. So,
boys, get that in you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Nice. Yeah, it's like it's kind of like a tangy, light ESB. No, which is the one? Is English mild the light version of an ESB, right? Essentially.
Yeah.
So it's kind of given that vibe to me.
So, there's like the bitter spectrum is.
It's kind of wide, right?
Broad, but I guess mild or like a pale ale. Like pale ale is the most generic term in the world ever, so I guess that doesn't really fit. But like,
it reminds me a bit of Apernaut.
Yeah, well, which is a pale ale at the end of the day. An English pale ale.
It's a tea, apricot tea pale ale.
Yeah. Apernaut is a tea pale ale, so it's apricot tea.
Yes,
So
I remember
kind
that.
of similar in vein, and we like to brew with tea. Like it's always been a lot of our beers feature tea as an extra little
Little
bonus
fun.
flavor booster, or like it's a really something we like to brew with. Mike D apostrophe has always liked to brew with tea. Yeah,
The
this is something
not
that fits
Dr.
kind of our theme. But we didn't want to do a hard iced tea. Like we wanted to do a
Right.
beer that tastes like iced tea,
Yeah.
without going down the route of like hard iced tea.
That's great. So it was the orange pico and English breakfast tea, and then lemons and limes. Okay, sick.
Yeah, so
And just
we did an extensive tea tasting one afternoon last year. Lots of different teas. It was I am probably one of the only British people who doesn't like to drink tea.
are you kidding me? You are cancelled.
I love my Marmite, but not my tea.
Well, you're halfway there.
Yeah, but
Do you eat
but no,
crumpets?
it was an interesting after though. We were trying to find the one that would balance best with the malts and actually
Right.
have like that tea flavor, but also trying to find what that tea flavor is when it comes to iced tea, because tea that tea drinkers drink and iced tea that everyone drinks are two completely different drinks. Like
Right.
that's kind of what we last year we didn't get that balance quite right. We went all down the tea drinking route rather than the like iced tea route. Like
Gotcha.
but we think we nailed it this year. And we did some fun cocktails with this last year, didn't we? As well, Keegan. Like
Yeah, we put this. We added simple syrup and just put ice with and squeezed the lemon on top. It's very good.
That's
Very
interesting. I can see
So
that. So
this-
just ramped
The
up
ice kind
sweetness.
of
in it.
cuts all the bitterness out,
Mm-hmm.
oddly enough, and then the simple syrup cuts it even more and adds like a nice sugar feel to it. Because the traditional way of making iced tea in the southern parts of the U.S. is tea. Then you add sugar, and then you
that's
put
the
ice.
iced tea with a D.
Iced
That's
tea,
really
yeah,
like-
exactly.
yeah.
And then the sugary version of the iced tea was kind of like an RTD back in the day. And that's what we kind of know in Canada and stuff. But in southern US, when you ask for an iced tea, there's no sugar in it. It's just cold tea.
I remember being like getting really pissed at that as a kid, because I used to like to drink iced tea as a kid, and then when my parents took us on a trip down to Florida or something like that, and I like ordering an iced tea at the restaurant, and I'm just tasting like this bitter cold black tea with absolutely no sugar, and I'm like, what is this? This is gross.
I always thought Canada. I thought the sweet sort of tea thing in the States was an American thing. In here, it was a bit more mellow because we didn't have it in Australia. Like iced tea is not a thing. Maybe now, but growing up, it was not a thing. I never even heard of it except for movies. So,
But I think in the US they had like sweet tea got developed, like it became a thing, but
So
it wasn't.
sweet tea
You
was
wouldn't order it as iced tea. You would order sweet tea.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you would.
I think I think that's like what you would get in a restaurant or something like that is different than what what someone would serve in their home in the South, kind of thing.
Yeah.
right.
But like in Canada, I don't ever remember drinking like a tea with ice in it. Like that's never.
Right. It's like a made
It's
beverage
always
with
been a
lemon.
sweet tea. Yeah, that we called iced tea, and then it just became a thing here.
So like it was always like the Nestle kind of one, like in the bottle and shit, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the one.
Okay, that was the one I always saw around. It seemed to be the most common one. Like even if you had a fountain drink at a fast food restaurant, it was always like the iced tea was like that one. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is is different because like here you get that and it would still be sweet, but the very same thing like a Nestle iced tea that you'd get at a fast food joint, like in the States would have no sugar in it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Which I would have thought the other way around, no? Because like
You would have
America,
thought the other way around, yeah, but
Yeah,
but it's actually not.
that's hilarious. Okay, now this really works. It's like to me, it's like just really like an English mild with a bit of like tangy lemon in it, and that sort of like, what's the sort of? I'm trying to like find the word for it. It's like, you know how like tea kind of dries your mouth out a little bit.
The astringency of like
It's astringent. Yeah, tea
It's
astringency.
deliberately that way. Like it's drying. It's like So, but there's probably the lactose accentuates that a little bit. There's a bit of the like chalkiness of it.
Fuck, I forgot about the
I'm
lactose.
noticing that too. Like always a classic C review there of chalky at the end of it because it's got lactose.
Yeah, like chalky is. I think I overuse that word a little bit. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, bro.
Because you drink lactose with the time. That's right.
I really. The funny thing is, I genuinely don't. I used to. I used to. It's all I used to like.
Okay.
But it's this is like the lactose. So what was the thinking behind putting lactose in this bad boy? Was it just to ramp up that sweetness a touch to kind of mimic that like?
Yeah,
sweet
that's pretty like. A lot of what we're trying to do with these kind of beers now that we've been doing a few more beers inspired by a drink. Like we have a Brazilian lemonade as well, which we came out with last year. That is coming out again soon this summer. And like that was just by Brazilian lemonade as well. It's coconut milk, condensed it's coconut milk and lime. And we tried to recreate that in beer form. Again, lactose is key there. But like we don't set it. I was trying to classify today some of our styles of beers that we've done in the last year, and like this one, the pumpkin spice latte that we do every year, the Brazilian lemonade. I don't know what to classify those as beer wise. Like they have a style underpinning them, but like our brewer Yannick, big shout out to Yannick though if he ever watches it, but he's looking at trying to recreate the drink in beer form without thinking about it as being like this has to be X style that tastes like this, if that makes sense.
Totally get it.
So like I'm calling this is a pale ale base,
right?
But it's like a pale ale is just anything that's not dark, right? So it's kind of it's a bit like try and classify it, but we're trying. In some ways, we're making like beers that are pretty unclassifiable. Like the latte is a blonde, or like maybe a white stout in some regards. The pumpkin spice latte, I mean.
Yes,
but it's not like we try to have like a consistent style on the bottom of each of our beers, like so that present what it is in the stores. That's getting harder and harder these days.
Yeah,
these more experimental beers.
That's the fun part.
Yeah, I guess it is.
We're just calling this a tea infused beer, like because that's what it is.
Yeah, no, essentially, it's exactly what it is. Tea infused beer, but I feel like people always want to put it in, and look, me included, to a degree, want to put something in, not in a box for the sake of it, but a box of like, oh, okay, I get the general gist. If you know what a pale ale is, there are obviously multiple different types of pale ales, like you were saying, Mike, but like it's like, oh, okay, it's kind of a pale ale base, but this one kind of more reminds me of an English mild, and it's got the lemon and the limes and the lactose, so it's giving a bit of sweetness, a bit of tangy, blah, 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 so you can put it together. Whereas, like, if it was just this nondescript beer, not only does the consumer have maybe problems placing it somewhere, which is dumb now I'm saying it out loud, but it just seems to be a human thing where you want to just understand what it is that the general gist of what you're looking at, but then where does the store put it? Just like your tea sparkling hot waters, where do they put it? That's an interesting.
Well, like at the end of the day, all of these stay beers that taste like something else.
Yeah,
but it's part of that like accessibility being key to what we do. Like this is a beer that could appeal to someone who doesn't drink beer.
Yeah,
for sure. Totally. Like it's aimed at it's an iced tea flavored beer.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe the like craft beer nerd or the person who's like really specific on style can like ponder and debate about where this exactly fits into the beer spectrum, or if it even does. Like maybe we've discredited it through the use of lactose. I don't know. But like to some people, we might have just offended all their sensibilities. But to other people, it's like this is a beer that I like the taste of, like, and it tastes a bit like an iced tea, so I can drink this all summer. Like that. That's the kind of thing we're going for a little bit with these more experimental things we've been doing recently.
Right. That makes sense. You're right, and it's a very attractive can with all the colorful dots and stuff. Kind of looks like ice cream a bit, and kind of feels like summery. So I can see that somebody maybe who wasn't a beer nerd who doesn't need to put shit in a box. Like, fuck, cool, beer tastes like iced tea. Let's go. Yeah. So I get it for sure. This is super fun. This is cool. At least we got a couple of beers from the anniversary lineups just to kind of get like a bit of a gauge as to what's happening. So as we climb towards the 3-hour mark here, I told you it was like always ends up around this. To bring it on home, is there anything? So the anniversary is April 27th, so this will come out after, but then they'll be able to get the beers around the province and access it from there. Is this one of the ones that's going to get distro? I feel like it probably will.
Yeah. This will be Quebec-wide distribution. It's out as of recording, so it'll been out a few weeks by the time it's there.
Perfect.
Yeah. This is going. If we're going early May, we have our May the 4th event. We do May the 4th for Star Wars every year.
Nice.
So we brew a special beer for Star Wars Day every year. So that'll be coming out around the time that people are listening to this.
Nice.
This time we're coming back to R2DDH2 is our Star Wars beer, but this time is entirely Quebec ingredients. So
nice.
Minus the yeast, I believe, but Quebec malts, Quebec hops.
I love
and some really funky Quebec hops like. Again, like we use Riel, and the other one we're using a hop called Limonadier, another one called Bergamot that do some really like orange lemon vibes. Like we figured R2D2, he's already wearing the Quebec flag, so we may as well just make him full Quebec. It's only R2D2 as a Quebec droid.
That's hilarious.
So yeah.
I love that. And you got the Burlington Beer collab, which will probably come out sometime maybe late May or something like that. By the time it kind of gets brewed,
early June.
Okay.
With a broken label machine and big delays coming up into the summer, it's all a guessing game at the moment. But,
of course.
Yeah.
Okay, and then for the rest of the year, is there anything kind of cool that you know people could maybe there's a lot of people listening who be listening to it during spring who are planning a trip around Montreal, particularly who's not whether in the States or here in Ontario or whatever, looking to come to Quebec in the summer. Is there anything kind of fun that you could sort of maybe you got planned or things that you're sort of hoping to have going down that you can speak about at this early stage?
Yeah, well, we got our food truck that's online now for the whole summer. The city just opened up the volleyball courts like we talked about earlier, right in front of our brewery.
Nice.
So that's pretty much what we got going on for the summer. We're just praying and hoping there's no construction on our street, and we should be good.
It's Quebec, though.
We gave our picnic tables nice bright colors.
Love that. That's perfect.
So we're like 10 minutes from downtown, so it's pretty. Like we get a lot of people coming in. Like we said, taster flights are big. We get a lot of people coming in when they search Montreal brewery. We seem to show up, so that helps. But like we're nice and centrally located, and like I said, rent a Bixie, go and see all the breweries on the Lachine Canal, and perfect summer day. We'll be there for your lunch stop.
Oh yeah, this is
bring your dog, bring your kids.
Yep. Yeah, bring your dog, bring your kids.
I couldn't. Just before we left, we did like a bunch of walks because when we decided to move here, we were just sort of walking around. Like, man, we never spent much time down there. Like Griffintown and Point St. Charles are so sick. And it's so beautiful, and that whole walk, you're so right from like, from Meso down to you can go Memento, then you guys, and then up to Brewski. So you're really going through all Points and Charles. You could duck into like Griffintown because it's just super cool, and then keep it cruising into Old Port. It's just like it's a whole day. You could do it on foot if you wanted to. It's not that bad. You burn off the beers at the same time. Like two for one. And truly being away now for coming up on 2 years, like nothing, I don't think anywhere beats a Montreal summer. I think it's like the greatest place on earth to at least spend a week if you can, like whatever in Montreal. It's just a vibe. And particularly what you're talking about there, that would be a day I would aggressively suggest. So
likewise, anyone flying out of Montreal airport, we're only like 10, 15 minutes drive away in Dorval.
Oh yeah.
The other locations, so.
We get people coming with their suitcase,
like with a layover.
Some suitcases, yeah.
If you don't want to give you money to Labatt at the airport, come see us.
That's the move. I like that subtle jab, but perfectly perfect. I love it. It's very fair. So with that said, boys, this has been a lot of fun. It's really cool catching up with you both, and again to crush some of these the newer stuff, some of the classic stuff. you guys got a lot of exciting things happening, and congrats on everything, man. It's really cool to see you both just thrive and that the brand thrive and grow and hit 6 years, getting through at least 2 to 3 years of a pretty insanely tough time whilst opening a new space and dealing with all sorts of nonsense. So I think that's a big credit to everything you guys have created. So congrats, and happy to see you thriving. Love it. It's a beautiful thing.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us. It's
it was great. It was great hanging with you. Great to have you on.
Yeah, man. Overdue. So let's keep in touch. We'll wrap up and we'll finish up off air so we can say goodbye there. But first and foremost, where can everybody find Carte Origine, both in person and online?
I guess our tap room is at 1304 Rue Saint-Patrick in Pointe-Saint-Charles, and Origin Brasse is at 220 Hymus in the West Island. And we are at For Origins Beer everywhere, I believe. Instagram and Facebook. Yeah. And TikTok.
And at Origin Brasse for
Origin Brasse, exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, we separated the Instagrams to not have too many food and cocktail posts on the beer side.
That makes sense, and it's a different business. It's sort of got a different like you want to learn about what beers are coming, you can check For Origins. If you want to learn more about like the food and all what's going on down there, you check that out. Amazing. So make sure you guys go follow. Boys, thank you again. Stick around, we'll wrap up. But everyone, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, and hit that notification bell. Nathaniel.
Ding.
So you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast, and of course at NathanDoesBeer. Check us out, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We got videos on Spotify now. They let you do it. It's beautiful. You can see Keegan and Mike's beautiful faces yap about craft beer, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers, go.
Cheers.